Hey, everybody. Welcome to another week of MRC Match Castings. It's me, Chris Jesty, joined with my illustrious co-host, Pirate. Say hi, Pirate.
Good morning slash evening, whenever you're listening to this.
I may sound a little funny, but my throat's a little messed up. Got a little bit of a sore throat action going on. So forgive me if I go in and out and I don't talk your heads off as much this time around. Uh, it's not exactly uh, comfortable to speak right now.
Oh, it's okay. They can hear me drone on about subjects.
As I intend to have you do this time around. All right. So this week we've got another match. This time it's a Solaris 7 match, I think round 3. So it's going to be a double blind city fight. This time we're going to be going about it a little bit different. This is our first time ever having somebody submit video to us to review. And that was submitted to us by Luke, also known as FWLGuard on the Discord. So we're going to be watching this match from his perspective. So we'll only really be able to comment on most of the moves he makes until all of the units become revealed and we can get a bigger picture of the actual battlefield. With that being said, we can go ahead and jump into their actual lists for this week.
So let's jump into the list here. So I see at the start we've got a Luke's, or is that Luke's?
Yeah, the top in blue is going to be Luke FWLGuard's lists.
So he's starting out hot and strong with a pair of Plainsman medium hover tanks. I had to look up what are on these things because I haven't run them myself, but basically they are speedy little SRM boats with a pair of 6s and a 2. And I would not be surprised if those double dutied as both initiative sinks and backstabbers, because getting hit with, let's see, we can't do math here, so that's like 14 or so SRMs.
Hey, good
28.
guess.
Hey, yeah, I started with 15. I was like, that's not an even number. So we got 14, 28 damage coming at you on a good cluster roll. That's not something you definitely want anywhere near you. The problem is, and this is something I don't like with hovercraft in general, if you get in short range, they're easier to hit, so they're going to go down faster. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays them. Are they just annoying harassers, or does he really go in for single shot kills on these things?
Yeah, one thing to note is that the two SRM6s are in a turret. So if he can get in the rear arc, it doesn't matter which way he's facing. He can bring those SRM6s to bear.
And at 35 tons, doing the math, 35 times 13, you can get pretty close to like 40 points of damage if you were to decide to do something spicy.
Oh, you mean like a charge an assault mech?
I would never suggest anyone go Dukes of Hazzard with a hovercraft right into someone's cockpit, but if you chose to.
Yeah, I mean, having a nice move of 14 is the way to go about it if you're going to do it. Oh, I was going to say one thing to note is that there's a pair of these. They're each only 720 battle value. That is a steal.
And at 4-3, these aren't even, the original, what you call it, 3-5 or 5-8 or whatever.
Yeah, they're even cheaper at the base price. Yeah, one thing to note, if you flank and turn, you do need to make a piloting roll, which I would imagine is why he dropped the piloting down to 3.
Well, and with 15 shots, if the game's only 15 turns and there's 15 shots in each of those SRM6s, I'd be tempted to use some sort of specialty ammo like Infernos on the second ton. That way you just have a little bit of options. You're not going to explode from overheating a vehicle, but you do have, turns 1 and 2, you're probably not shooting the SRMs at an enemy. So at worst, if you were to fire every single turn for the rest of the game, you're only going to be out 2 or 3 turns of SRM ammo.
Yeah, I agree completely. There's no reason not to on a unit like this that's got the extra tonnage. All right, now moving on to the next one, we have the 60-ton T-Sang, and these are also in a pair, the TSG 9J.
Well, it's apparent to me that he took these in mind for some close range brawling. Okay, we got some SRM Plainsmen, we've got some T-Sangs, which are, you know, basically really, really Chinese and angry night skies. Like, um, they're obviously influenced by Sun Tzu, Liao, and the Capellan Confederation. But 60 tons, triple strength Myomer, big ol' hatchet. I read up on this variant, and this looks like the long range variant with, is it 2 ER? Yeah, sorry, 1 ER large laser, and still retains most of the ER mediums, but that gives it some long range striking ability. So it's not something you can just kite. It's going to hit you from somewhere, and it's in the center torso, so you're not just going to blow it off.
Yeah, and none of the weapons are in the right arm, which is where the hatchet is located. So it can fire every single weapon and swing on you with that hatchet once it closes the distance.
And one thing to remember is you can either hatchet or punch. So if you were to make a melee attack, there's no reason to have two hatchets, for example. So one hatchet is sufficient.
Correct. Or
Um,
you can kick, which is arguably just as good.
because it's hatchet is what, weight divided by, is it 7?
Yeah, it's either, yeah, it's not quite as good as a kick, but it does give you the minus to hit, I think, -1 or -2.
Yes, it's still -1 to hit, but also you hit on the full body table, so you do have a chance of hitting the head and a better chance of hitting a torso rather than just kicking the leg. It is important to kick the legs, and this thing has triple strength Myomer on it, so when it gets hot, it can kick for what is that, 12 damage? No, even more. 24 damage.
24. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I can do the math when it comes to damage. So 24 damage kicks is still pretty lethal. So, it's got options, like you said, do a kick, blow a leg off, or maybe try to finish off a torso and kill something. I've not really been successful in using T-Sangs, but I have seen them used against me, and, excited to see how this one pilots as well.
Yeah, these remind me of the Nodachis the Nitro was running in the last tournament. So very similar loadout.
Those things are brutal, especially with the pulse lasers. At least this one it's got range to it, ER mediums and smalls, but
Yeah,
none of
though
those.
it's hard to pass up a pulse laser.
Hmm. And these things, besides the TSM kicking in to give it a better than 6'9" standard movement, they jump for 6, so it's not like you're going to be able to just hide on a hill to keep away from it.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing to note. Almost all of these mechs on his list, actually, I think all the mechs on his list jump. The only things that don't are those hover tanks, which could be really big in a city fight.
Mhm.
Next up is the Star Slayer STY-3DR. It's got a 585 movement profile, 24 double heat sinks, one, two, three medium lasers. One happens to be rear mounted on the head, which is odd, and then a heavy PPC in the right torso. And he's got triple strength Myomer, which is interesting.
I'm seeing a theme here. We got triple strength T-Sang, we got triple strength Star Slayer. Um, that Star Slayer I really like because the heavy PPC is probably my favorite weapon, if I'm going to be honest. And seeing basically, laser boat Hollander here for a decent price point, it just makes me excited. I haven't actually run a Star Slayer. I probably need to look at Free Worlds League mechs more often. But this does look like a very, very fun mech.
Yeah, I just think that rear mounted medium laser in the head is kind of a waste on a 50-ton mech. With that kind of movement profile, you shouldn't really be worried too much about something getting in your rear arc. You should be getting in something else's rear arc.
While I'm looking at his armor profile, his rear arc does have a decent amount, 5, 5, and 6. For a 50-ton mech that's okay. It can take a medium laser hit from the inner sphere into the rear. I wonder if that's one of those, this thing is just too powerful. We have to give it some sort of weakness. So we're going to flip one of the lasers in its head.
Yeah, that could be it. It also does have a Guardian ECM suite, just in case that comes into play, which it might actually in this city fight.
City fight, but also rear laser would help if you were flanked unexpectedly. But also, and this doesn't come up too often, but having that laser in the head, if you were going to put it anywhere, the head's probably a good spot because it can soak a critical hit, unlike a roll again. So
Very true.
might come in clutch, once out of every 70 games you play, which is about, a month and a half of some of us playing Mega Mech, but still.
By some of us, you mean you, and maybe Nitro and Luke. They do tend to play a lot.
There's probably closer to a half dozen of us now. I've kicked back and seeded the table on that goal.
Yeah, man, the numbers of you nonstop playing people have grown significantly, which is good, I guess, because now I don't have to wait around to get a game.
Join the MRC. Somebody's willing to watch you blow up.
Oh yeah, and we're willing to watch them watching you blow up and tell everybody about it.
This is getting confusing. Let's go to a very simple mech, the Vindicator. Obviously, there is absolutely nothing unfamiliar with a standard Vindicator here, right?
Oh no, of course not. I hear the 5L is the most run-of-the-mill Vindicator ever. It's got a
Well,
4-6 forward movement profile, 20 heat sinks total. Whoa, what the hell do we have? Okay, maybe not. I spoke way too soon. It's got an ER PPC, an ER medium laser, a medium pulse laser, a small laser, and another ER medium pulse, and a small pulse laser on the opposite side. So it's got two ER mediums, two medium pulses, and two small lasers, one in each torso, left and right, respectively, and then an ER PPC in the right arm, and then a sword in the left arm with triple strength myomer. Uh,
so this
uh,
sounds like they went, hey, get all the cool toys. I love the Vindicator. Get everything. Just take all the cool stuff and dump it on this thing.
yeah, it's like they had a checklist that said PPC, yes, lasers, all, sword, why not?
We couldn't find an assault chassis because the Fed Sons blew up all our factories on Tikhonov, but we have figured out a way to mount on this on a Vindicator. Um, I don't like this mech. It's got an inner sphere ERPPC. I just don't like inner sphere ERPPCs. The heat to damage ratio just isn't there.
Yeah, 15 heat to 10 damage is not really worth it in any sense. I mean,
Like,
yeah, it's got no minimum range, but it's just far too heat inefficient, even on a TSM Mac.
yeah, I mean, it's got plenty of weapons to get the heat up. So your mediums and those pulses, especially. I do like pulse lasers on TSM mechs. Besides the jumping, which this one can do, it kind of balances out if you overshoot a little bit and you start getting heat penalties. At least your pulse lasers have a chance of hitting. But yeah, that ERPPC, it feels kind of like with the T-Sang where they went, hey, let's make it useful in both long range and short range. I kind of like specialist mechs, Piranha 2, Dasher H. Compare that with like the Sun Cobra. So where it's like,
Oh
this
yeah,
is a long range mech, this is a short range mech. So when you start mixing them, overlapping fields of fire in multiple ranges starts to feel like you're just doing half a job poorly instead of one job not at all or really well.
yeah, exactly. And just because this mech is even more confusing than I thought it was at first glance, I was mistaken. There is a standard small laser in the left torso and a small pulse laser in the right torso, just to throw you off just that little bit,
Oh, you got to min max somewhere.
right? And the sword of all melee weapons, the most efficient is the hatchet when it comes to damage to bonus to hit ratio. The sword, I think, is what, -2 to your hit number?
Um, Pretty sure it's -2. and the damage is like 7 or something crazy.
I thought it was just like standard punch damage or whatever, but just with -2 to hit. I could be mistaken. It might be slightly more.
I am totally not pulling up a PDF to check that out, which we'll get back to in a second.
But either way, the sword is arguably a less efficient melee weapon to pick than the hatchet. You're more than likely going to be better off kicking than you are swording people.
I'd agree with that. I mean, the sword, I think, does have a better chance if you chose to roll on the punch table, because you actually, with melee weapons, can choose. Um, I want to use my melee weapon for whatever reason on the kick table. Or you can say, I want to use it on the punch table and take a penalty. Or you can just not choose and it'll do it on the full body table.
But I thought you could only pick between full body and punch table with the penalty.
Um, Double check me on that, but I haven't actually clicked the kick button, but it does appear you can do kick or punch, or you can just X out of it and do nothing.
Huh. All right. No, have to double check that one. But yeah, you do take a +4 penalty to hit if you do decide to use the punch table, which the sword will cancel half of that out. And if you have a chance of, doing enough damage to take out their cockpit, it could be worth it. You never know.
Finally pulled it up. The hatchet is -1 to hit, 1 damage per 5 tons. The
Oh, so
sword
it's as
is
much damage as a kick, which is why it's so good.
Mhm. Yep, and the sword is -2 to hit with 1 damage per 10 tons, so it is punch damage, it looks like.
That's huge. So minus an extra -1 to hit versus half damage compared to the hatchet, I don't think is worth it. I think you go for the hatchet every single time.
Oh, and I apologize, the sword is also +1 damage, so it's by 10 +1. So maybe there's an argument that light mechs, that +1 is so much better than a kick, but we'll have to get into more math than I choose to
Um,
math on
yeah,
mathing.
maybe there's an edge case for it, but still, if you're going to throw a melee weapon on a mech, you're going to want a hatchet or something funky like a lance, maybe. But
Or
that's neither here nor there.
you start getting into the Dark Age stuff like the Violator, which I keep trying to make work, which has like a dual saw and a mining drill, and they are absolutely terrible.
I want to make the Pouncer X work. I got to try it one of these days. It's the only clan mech I've seen with a lance.
We'll do a jousting tournament.
All right. Well, I think that just about does it for Luke's list. We can go ahead and get into Alroy's list if you want next.
Yep. So we're starting out with a variant of the Mad Cat that I've not piloted. Seems to come up quite often in these two lists, but it is the Mad Cat E with 2 larges, ATM nines, a light tag, and it's decently priced. Almost
Uh,
full armor for what you got. It's not the most expensive Mad Cat I've ever seen, but
oh yeah, 230 out of 231 armor is perfect. It's not going to get much more efficient than that.
no. And the Clan ER large, I'll give an exception to because I think they're also not super terribly heat efficient to the damage for what else you could pick.
Yeah,
But two ER
compared
larges is nice.
compared to a clan large pulse laser, I'd rather have the clan large pulse every time for 10 heat to 10 damage versus 12 heat for 10 damage on the ER large. But I mean, as a sniper mech, you'll take what you can get. Yeah,
Yeah.
the light tag is a little odd, kind of throwing you off there. The ATMs, they've got 6 tons of ammo for the ATMs. So, and you can only have standard, extended, or high explosive. You can't choose from any other ammo types. So he's got enough to fire for 14 turns if he takes one of each, or two of each, I should say. Sorry,
And
which is the standard loadout.
And I do like this mech because back to single purpose mechs, this is a sniper. So you've got your ER larges and your ATM extendeds or standards. it can still defend itself up close when you switch to high explosives, and clan AR larges are not anything to sniff at. Hyper accurate at 7 hexes or 9 hexes, one of the two.
Yeah, they can definitely reach out and touch something.
Yeah.
And those ATMs can easily switch as he or his opponents close the distance and adjust their damage bracket accordingly.
And ATMs are odd in that they're more like LRMs, where they do in clusters of 5 damage, but you can change the ammo damage so your extended range is just 1 damage in clusters of 5. Standard is like long range LR SRMs in clusters of 5, but your high explosives is 3 damage per missile that hits in clusters of 5. So it's a little more mathy, but it is fun to have options with the same launcher, like an MML.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's potential for a lot of damage up close out of those ATMs if he can close the gap. But I mean, you're a 5'8" mech with 2 larges. You shouldn't be closing the gap unless you want to. And I would say you've got kind of an anemic weapons loadout for a brawler with only those 2 ATM9s and 2 larges. You're going to want to hang back and burn through all of your extended range and standard ammo before you even think of closing the distance and using those high explosives.
Oh yeah, the only reason you move this mech forward is when you say, "Hey, I just want to go in and go, sweep the field and clear off a damaged mech."
Now, it is the biggest and most expensive mech in his list, so there is something to be said about, distraction carnifexing with it.
So it's also the only mech where the gunnery is 3. I see he's gone with 4 5s, 4 3s on the rest of his mechs and a pair of 4 4s. Or sorry, I
Yeah.
was looking at the 4 5. That's the snipers, but yeah, it's the only gunnery 3, so that's going to be his sniper for that reason, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. The big investment into this bad boy.
It is one confusing thing though is his most heavily armored mech is also the one that's probably not going to get shot at that often. So that's kind of a waste on the armor there.
Yeah. I like to have cheaper snipers. I mean, something like the Cougar Prime or what is it? The Pouncer A or Prime? I don't remember. But there's plenty of other cheaper Omni-Mechs that have like dual large pulse lasers that are half the price of this, literally.
But it is expected to get into the fight. One thing I've noticed, and this is one I just found it out today looking at flex sheets getting ready for a local event this week, is that take a look at mechs where the armor is higher than the leg armor. Specifically, in my case, it was a Sun Cobra and it started clicking. A Sun Cobra only has 2 Gauss rifles. That's it, nothing else. It's never supposed to get up front. It's never supposed to get kicked. You're not supposed to be anywhere near another mech. It has more armor than leg armor because it's supposed to be behind a hill. The legs are never supposed to be shot. So I noticed that, and now I'm looking at every single mech now that's a sniper, seeing if I can find more like that, where the arms are more important than the legs. In this case, they're fairly evenly balanced, so he is supposed to get in there, I think, and go kill every so often.
Yeah, I mean, a 5'8" movement profile on a 75 tonner is nothing to sneeze at. That's faster than a lot of medium mechs.
But then next up, we've got a mech that I really enjoy playing, but man, I can never get it to work right. The Night Sky. The 6T specifically has a large pulse, a medium pulse, a small pulse, and then an ER medium and some ER smalls. But it's the triple strength mimer and the hatchet that is really why you want to take this giant distraction carnifex onto the field.
Oh, and it's got a 696 movement profile, so it can jump around or use its increased movement speed from once that TSM gets activated.
And you'll notice a trend of every TSM mech. They tend to have a lot of different weapons so that you can have options of what to shoot the dirt with to get exactly 9 heat every single time.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed is that almost every single TSM mech is a pure laser boat, so they always have enough heat to get that TSM going. I don't think I've seen a single TSM mech with either LRMs, SRMs, or an autocannon of any sort.
Uh, Very good reason for that is because ammo can overheat and explode, and brawlers that have a hatchet need to get really close and stuff gets behind them. So you don't want your frontline mech that gets hot accidentally cooking its own ammo, or in the case of something like a hunchback with a sword would be amazing, except its rear armor means its AC-20 is going to explode before it gets to use it.
Yeah, definitely a good consideration when it comes to looking at the way these mechs are designed.
But I will say, if you go to Iron Wind and check out the Night Sky, it is taller than like a Warhawk. It is a really big model. It is a very terrifying model. And when I took one to Southern Assault, everyone decided, I don't know what that is, but it needs to die immediately. So do consider taking one, if for no other reason than people don't really understand melee in person, it seems. So they do enjoy trying to kill that thing because it is very, very intimidating.
Yeah, when you're large and in charge, you're hard to ignore. All right, I think that about does it for the night sky, especially considering we just went through a whole bunch of other very similar TSM mechs with the list which we just looked at previously.
Oh yeah, so let's get into the Wolverine 7K here, which looks like your typical trooper mech, except it's got pulse lasers instead of regulars, a large, a medium, and a small, and a pair of SRM-6s, one in each torso.
Now, this is one of the most efficient Wolverines out there, from what I can remember. If I remember correctly, I think Brad used three of these at the Las Vegas Open because the limit was three of a kind of a particular model. And if he could
I,
have taken more, I bet he would have.
I mean, I like it. I don't know if it has case or not because it's an Intersphere mech from the Clan Invasion, but
No,
pulse
it does
lasers,
not.
yeah. Well, pulse lasers are just the -2 to hit. Let me rephrase that. The -2 to hit is very good because it helps smooth out a lot of tactical errors. I really think that taking two larges or two medium lasers is better than a pulse laser if you can pull it off. But having a mech like this where it can adapt in multiple situations with those pulse lasers and put out a tremendous amount of damage and have a decent amount of armor for what you're paying for, and it can jump, it has a decent movement profile, and it has SRM-6s to start crit seeking for things that your list like that Mad Cat pokes holes in. This is a very good medium line trooper mech to just be able to react to situations or duel, backstabbers or individual mechs trying to break through your lines.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's 585 standard Wolverine movement profile, 185 out of 185 armor. So it's got the maximum armor for its tonnage. And it's got 2 tons of SRM-6 ammo, which means you can bring Infernos and standard and apply as necessary. So you can heat up some of those TSM mechs if they get too close.
You know what? And that is one way to deal with TSM mechs is to heat them up to the point that they start slowing down. Then you've got an easier time hitting something.
Definitely. So this Wolverine is a very, very good 55-ton trooper mech that should be available to many factions, even though it's got the K designator for Karita.
Now, what you think about this dervish, though?
Actually, I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet.
Fair enough. Well, my experience with the dervish is that I didn't like them in MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. So I've not actually tried them on the tabletop or really played against anyone using them in Mega Mech, but I've got a jaded experience of them from the video game, partly because everyone says they're awesome and I just wasn't seeing it. So I'll be real curious at um, how this gets played out on the field today because 4 ER mediums, 4 MML 5s, double case targeting computer. Why do you need a targeting computer if you got MMLs?
For
It's
those 4 ER mediums.
well, yeah, but it says save the targeting computer for when you really need it, like on PPCs.
Yeah, that's true. But you do pay less for it because there is weapons that do not utilize it. But one big thing to note is this mech has case in both the left and right torso. And it's got an XL engine, so that doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't matter for the competitive style that we're playing, and it's got okay-ish armor. I mean, it's maxed out. It's 184 out of 185, but 6 in
Yeah.
the rear, so you can take a medium laser hit and still have a little armor. But
Yeah, it's just as armored as the Wolverine we were looking at. It's down 1 point. So I'd say it's probably slightly more efficient because it's lost that 1 point, which means it gave up like what, half a ton or a whole ton for something else, which is
uh,
probably the case.
well, the first thing this mech needs to do is it has center torso MML ammo. It needs to dump that on turn 1.
Yeah, that is a little worrying. But I mean, no matter where the ammo is, if it gets crit, the mech's done for anyway.
True.
So you may
So
as well leave it there.
that's true. But yeah, just center torso ammo gets me nervous. So
But I mean, that is basically an equivalent of an SRM-20 between those 4 MML5s. So it is definitely something to be scared of once it closes the distance.
I do like those weapon profiles now that you mentioned that. Back to the Timberwolf being your long range, your Wolverine being your mid range, and your Dervish being your short range. I'm starting to see how this is all piecing together.
Yeah, I like the Wolverine paired up with this Dervish. They have similar range brackets. The Wolverine's more of a light hunter with those pulse lasers, and this is more of a medium range brawler with the MMLs and the medium lasers with the targeting computer. So I like this mech. It's not bad. I think it's I wouldn't say it's as good as the Wolverine, but I'd say it's still pretty good and it serves a different role than the Wolverine does.
Would you pay an extra 206 BV for it?
No, I'd just take another Wolverine.
Fair.
I mean, save the BV and double up on an already really efficient mech. The Wolverine has a standard engine, if I remember correctly, so it does have some zombie power.
Even that Wolverine's got an XL.
Oh, it does. Never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of a different Wolverine that Brad took.
Well, we know if Brad takes it, there's something behind the scenes that makes it awesome.
Definitely. Speaking of being awesome and nasty, let's take a look at the next mech. This is a mech everybody is probably going to be well acquainted with in the coming months. This is the Spider SDR-8X. It's got an 8, 12, 10 movement profile. That's right. It jumps for 10, and it's got 23 double heat sinks and a beautiful assortment of weapons and 2 medium pulse lasers. This,
So,
go ahead, Pirate.
not to steal the thunder, but this is a very dangerous mech because it can jump for 10. Those pulse lasers means it can actually hit you. It can kick you. It can jump in places you least expected and, get that little bonk to the head. And that partial wing, um, man, jumping 10, that's a really good objective runner, even if you didn't buy it just for the combat potential and backstabbing. That is a good objective running mech.
Yeah, I agree, which is why I'm taking one with me to NashCon, specifically for running objectives. Uh, the partial wing also acts as a heat sink, if I remember correctly. And this spider is, I mean, it's a light mech at 30 tons, but it's surprisingly tanky at 96 out of 105 possible armor. So it can kind of take a hit. It's got 10 armor in the side torsos. So even a clan large pulse laser hitting one of those torsos, and you're not internal. Even on the arms, actually, now that I check it, arms are also 10, and the legs are 11. So you can take a clad large pulse pretty much anywhere except the rear and live to tell the tale and keep jumping around and being a nuisance, which is a very good benchmark for one of these jumpy, annoying mechs.
Would you call this the Dasher H of the later ages?
I would call this worse than the Dasher H because you can get a +5 mod very, very easy. And it's got dual pulse lasers, so you don't have to be right up against the back of your target.
I could see that, but where people were taking the Dasher H, which at 4.5 was 771, this is a 4.3 at 918. Similar BV, similar extremely dangerous into your rear, similar high speed. I could see why it would be more dangerous, but same concept of this thing. You're right. It does move faster and it jumps so that you can get a higher modifier, which makes some of the standard Dasher H tactics like pulse lasers in the arms a little less effective. But yeah, this is a very, very dangerous mech.
Yeah, there's also a significant sorry, there's also significantly more armor on this spider than there is the Dasher. I think a medium laser anywhere on the Dasher and it goes up in flames. Uh, and it's not an Omni-Mech, so it can't carry battle armor, but it makes up for it in being able to jump and shoot both of its weapons every single turn without overheating, unlike the Dasher H, which can't
Uh,
fire all of those little heavy smalls.
if it was able to carry battle armor, I'm pretty sure they would all be screaming in terror as that thing flies across the field on basically like a jet engine. That would be nuts.
Well, I mean, the battle armor already kind of jump around like that. I mean, they don't jump as far, but they already kind of have little jet engines strapped to their backs as is.
True. Well, if we get cryogenically frozen for about 1,000 years, you can try that out.
I can only wish that happens. All right. I think that about does it for the
Mm,
heinous
no, it doesn't.
Spider 8X.
Oh no, Spider, yes, but then we move on to one of my favorite mechs from the newer eras because it's just so darn cute.
I love the model for this mech. It is adorable. You are correct.
So this is basically a forklift that they said, you know what? What if we stuck lasers in the arms? Cool. Well, this industrial mech, which looks like a villain from Futurama called Clamps, is now a fully armed battle mech. The Hermit Crab, in this case, the better variant, the 14. It's got 3 ER mediums, one in each arm and one in the center torso. It can jump for 6. It's got a 710 movement, near maxed 80 out of 89 ferrofibrous armor, which can take a inner sphere medium laser hit to anywhere except the arms and not even go internal. It's just a fun one to play.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty efficient mech. If it had that extra little jump jet, it would be, ridiculous tier. But since it only jumps for 6, I guess that just drops the price even further and makes it even more affordable. At a 4.4, it's only 928, just a little bit more expensive than that Spider at 4.3.
And again, it can still kick like the spiders. So get that somewhere and start making PSRs. We talk about hardened armor being a problem in the later eras. The spider and the hermit crab are two examples of start kicking it around and make them get up.
Yeah, see, I don't consider hardened armor to be a problem. I consider it to just be an option for some mechs. You're giving something up when you buy that hardened armor, and it's usually tonnage for weapons.
Oh, absolutely. But it's one of those where you have to play it like, learning to shoot hammerheads in the back. Then you start
Hey,
then you start realizing that thing I need to play differently when I shoot at it.
yeah, stop shooting my hammerheads in the rear arc, goddammit.
Going spear fishing.
This is why I've changed my tactics so that they always have a little buddy or a big buddy backing them up so that you can't just go into the rear arc unhindered. we'll say.
I know, but now I have to change my tactic, and eventually we'll get to an old lady who swallows a fly levels of crazy.
Yeah, we're almost there. Not quite.
I need to bring this sentinel because he's got that stalker.
It's funny you actually say that. Yeah, there's a whole meta that have developed in StarCraft because of contingencies, but that's
Uh,
neither here nor there.
no, and there's one elephant in the room we didn't talk about for this match.
Yeah, technically, there's four of them in the room, and that would be the sniper artillery standards that are going to be on each player's team, two apiece. The only thing that really matters is this sniper weapon right here. It just says sniper, but we all know that as the sniper artillery cannon. And if you look at the ammo, it's got plenty of rounds. So the idea is each player is going to fire each of their two sniper artilleries every turn. So one thing unique about this particular setup is that each player can pre-designate 5 hexes to where the artillery will automatically hit on the turn it gets to that location. The snipers starting are going to start the match off board, which means they are not an actual unit. You can move around, but you can fire with them every turn. They'll be 17 hexes away, so that means the bare minimum travel time for any of these rounds is going to be 1 turn, and it could be up to 2 turns depending on how far away you decide to shoot that sniper artillery round. Maybe even 3 if you go all the way to the edge of your opponent's map, or your opponent's edge of the map, I should say.
So a few things for people that haven't used artillery before is um, the travel time, like you mentioned. So even if you didn't pre-designate it, if you were to say, I want to shoot artillery there, you fire it in the start of the phase. Then you do your movement. Then there's an artillery phase, which happens before the shooting. You don't land this turn unless you had fired in previous turns. Or if it was on board, etc., within 17 hexes or one map sheet. But there's different phases, so you have to fire it, move, an artillery landing phase if something didn't have to travel. You finish the round. The next turn, you fire, you move, then your first artillery shell lands that turn. So there's a lot of big brain thinking you have to do about where you want your artillery to land. Or like you said, it might be a second turn away. Just depends on how far the artillery physically is.
Yeah, you basically need to plan your shots 2 turns ahead of where you think your opponent's going to be. So if you shoot now, you're planning for not next turn, but the turn after, because they get to move basically twice before that shell is going to land.
And while that sounds like, well, it makes it, harmless, if you can realize where your opponent's going to land sniper nests, or you can trick your opponent into moving into a certain position to try to get that back shot, or to try to get down that one alley where it has line of sight, it can have devastating consequences.
Yeah, any list that's able to dictate the engagement zone is going to have the upper hand on this. So maybe the melee mechs might not play into your favor, especially if your opponent knows you're going to want to get into melee. You can stop just short of one of your pre-designated hexes and stand there for 2 turns while your opponent closes the gap and walks right into an artillery shell.
And then one thing to call out is because these are off-board artillery, there's no way for you to actually attack them, which is why a lot of times if you are playing if you are playing artillery, a lot of locals or other events will insist that artillery is on board so that there's a chance for your opponent to actually destroy it. Because with off-board, that artillery can just sit there, immune to retaliation for the entire game.
Yeah, there is something called counter battery fire but it was not in effect for this particular tournament. It's where you can have your artillery shoot at each other and kill each other off board. But that's neither here nor there for this particular situation.
And this is the spicy NFL signature double blind city fights.
Correct. So, is there anything else that we need to go over before we go ahead and get into the match, Pirate?
So I'm rooting for my stablemate Luke here, but I'm looking at these lists, and candidly, I don't know who's going to win this one because there is a lot of chonk and speed and maneuverability in Luke's list. But then Elroy's, I really like the simplicity of his mech choices now that we've gone over them. Um, whereas this is the sniper, this is the brawler, this is the mid-range trooper, this is the backstabber. I don't know how this is going to play out. Any predictions on your side?
So, I have a feeling that Alroy might come out on top for a handful of reasons. One of them is because there's a lot of melee on Luke's list, and like I said earlier, you can dictate where your opponent goes if you know what their strategy is. And getting into melee is a risky proposition if your opponent has time to set up and lure you into an artillery trap. Not to mention, he's got longer range firepower on Alroy's list with that Mad Cat and some of those and some more of those ER mediums on like that night on that Dervish. So he has slightly more sniping potential, but it is a city fight, and jump jets play a big role when it comes to city fights. So there is a lot of jump jets on Luke's side, but I think there's just as many jump jets on Alroy's side, and then he has that Mad Cat to back him up as well. I think it's going to be I think Luke's going to be hard pressed to get any sort of value out of those planesmen before they blow up. Maybe one or two turns of SRM fire before they skid into a building or are just picked off by either that Mad Cat or that Dervish, or maybe even the Spider with those pulse lasers.
Well, if nothing else, I want to see that Star Slayer heavy PPC something in the face because, again, favorite weapon. Um, love to see that happen.
Yeah, that would be a nice show. With that being said, I think we can go ahead and get into the match. So this was a recording sent in by, I do believe, Luke. So we're going to be trying to fast forward a bit through here and get to the juicy bits. So as you can see right now, Luke is pre-plotting his artillery shots. Each player gets 5, and this is a common layout I've seen because the grid is fairly stable when it comes to the map. There's always going to be this intersection of 6 roads in the middle, and then he's picking these other intersections out off on the sides, on the north and southwest and north and southeast portions of the road here. I had a similar setup for my match against Vapor as well.
And for anybody listening instead of watching, the screen is moving chaotically around because we like to zoom in and pick our deployment zones um, and drag and click a lot. One thing I do notice though is he is, I guess, trying to line up his allies and his line of sights to his opponent in a double bind fight before his opponents even put anything on the board. So
Oh, and there you go. You can see
it is.
exactly why you did that. He revealed his plainsman, and now he can see his opponent's Mad Cat.
And those plainsmen are great initiative sinks to put down the middle of each of those main corridors so that you can try to figure out if he's throwing all his mechs on one side or the other.
Oh, and it looks like he placed his second plainsman in the same hex as his first and threw one of his T-Sangs over off into that left corridor running north and south. So there's a chance, depending on where Alroy deploys, that he might reveal his T-Sangs and also see some of his opponent's mechs.
Now, neither side has a VTOL, which is also very common in city double blind fights.
Yeah, a VTOL flying around at like height 10 will see a very large portion of the map. Basically, anything that's not hidden directly adjacent to a building hex will be visible for that VTOL.
Now, one thing to keep in mind if you are playing City is double check you have basements turned off. I can't tell you the number of times I've fallen in a basement because I forgot to turn it off. But it's not intended to be on. But if it is, it's probably not restarting a whole match over. But do try to turn basements off.
Yeah, they are supposed to be off by default. So if they get turned on, they're not supposed to be on. But it is what it is. It just means that you can't really enter a building without the risk of falling down and losing a mech outright.
Well, let's see. It looks like Elroy's visible 2 and 2 on each of those. I bet you he has 2 on the other side as well that are just not seen because Luke doesn't have anything on the far right.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision coming out of Luke here. I would have expected to put one of those planesmen in the right or left just as a scouting move to see what's coming down that other corridor. As it stands now, he's blind to that portion of the map.
It's a bold move, Justy. We'll see if it pays off for him.
Yep, throwing out one of those auto hits directly in the middle, and his second shot slightly north of it. So more than likely, that second shot is going to drift because the target numbers are ridiculously high, like 10s or 11s minimum.
One thing I didn't think about is it's better to not auto designate or fire on your auto designated hexes if you don't need to, because I think in the log it actually says hits intended target pre-designated. So that's one way to kind of reveal accidentally what your hexes are, possibly.
That is correct. I think your opponent has to have line of sight to that hex in order for them to get that bit of information revealed to them.
Another thing is don't shoot your own mechs with your own artillery if you can avoid it.
It's a lot easier said than done. Believe me, I hit one of my own mechs with artillery, and it's just
Yeah.
because it drifted, not because of I was in my own auto hit AOE.
So in my match against Delirian for Stable Masters, I shot my own head off with my own artillery on a pre-designated hex.
Ooh, okay, yeah. There's I got no defense for that.
It's okay, neither does my ghost.
But yeah, no, I ended up not well. So I hit my own set of elementals with artillery, which brought them all down to 1 health, and then Vapor hit them that same round with one of his shots and killed them. So I technically didn't kill my own elementals, but it definitely was not good for their health.
Brutal.
Yeah, very much so.
So I see that Mad Cat is moving up to try to dominate the center.
Which is not a bad strategy, although there is quite a bit of forest, and the center of the map is very popular for pre-designated axes. One of my matches, I had pretty much all 5 of mine clustered around the center on a practice match, and they ended up paying off for the most part. At the bare minimum, they cleared a lot of buildings out and gave me some better lines of fire.
Now I see a lot of running happening turn 1, especially there with one of the T-Sangs running and turning. If you're running and turning on pavement, you better have good piloting skills so you don't accidentally charge into a building.
Yeah, you don't want to go skidding into a building, or you're gonna have a bad time.
It's charge damage of some sort, I believe.
Yeah, it's an incidental charge. I think there's rules for it, but basically, it's however far you would continue skidding is how many hexes it considers the charge. Uh,
Uh, so notice the Vindicator there. It couldn't just jump anywhere it wanted to with the jump jets. It was limited because those buildings, some of which are so tall, it can't just jump over them.
yeah, that Vindy's only got a jump of 4, and there are 5 and 6 level buildings scattered throughout. In my map, there was even some 7 and 8 level buildings, which was surprising.
Is that what it is? You have to have jump jets of a certain number to jump over things?
Yeah, it's the same way for it. I mean, the building is basically just a hill for all intents and purposes when it comes to game mechanics. It's a hill with health. And if you can't jump that high, you can't go over the building.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like you can't jump up to a level 5 hill with only 4 jump jets. Same concept for the building. The main difference being that buildings have health, as I mentioned earlier, and depending on how much health the building has, also known as its construction factor, uh, you can stand on the building. Like, see how that spider is directly at level 4 on top of that level 4 building? If you
Mhm.
weigh less than the building, you're free to stand on top of it, even if it's by 1 ton. But as soon as that building no longer has enough construction factor to hold your mech, it will collapse. Which means standing on, a 50 CF building with a 30-ton mech is asking for trouble. You want to make sure that building has significant amounts of health on top of the tonnage of your mech if you're going to stand on it.
Or that the building can't be seen so people don't shoot the building out from under you. So as long as there's a taller building in front of you by, even just one, or the same height, then they're going to have to shoot that building before they shoot the one your mech is on.
Correct. Yeah. So where that spider is, assuming that Luke doesn't move where he looks like he's planning on moving. uh,
Go charge, Luke.
yeah, that's a ballsy play if he does go for that charge.
But
But as long as you don't have line of sight to that hex, the spider will be safe. Oh, it's one of the plainsmen. No wonder they're moving so far. Now, one thing to know is usually hovercraft are not allowed to move through a forest. But I noticed that if there is a road going through a forest hex, you're moving along the same direction as that road is facing, it's considered moving through a road and not a forest, so you don't take the penalty. And the same is true for mechs as well.
well, I mean, that just makes sense. If there's a road there, then obviously there should be enough clearance to get a hovercraft down it.
Yeah, and I guess a mech is also true for that matter. It threw off one of my calculations when I played against Vapor on here because I was like, "Oh no, I won't be able to move that far because of the forest." And I was wrong. I was able to move my full movement because it was in line with the road, and it threw off a lot of my calculations and ended up with me getting hit by an artillery because I moved too far.
Now, he's moving plainsmen pretty aggressively there. I might consider saving those uh, or using them as false sensor blips, but those they're very fragile. You're only going to use them once, and if you're not going to shoot into the rear with them or at a damaged, crippled mech, um, seems like that's asking for them to get out of the match a little early.
Yeah, and you don't have eyes on every single one of Elroy's mechs currently, so maybe using them just to scout, getting up a high TMM and going up one of these sides, or that right side specifically, to try and see what he's got over there, if there's anything over there, would be the best use of these plainsmen. Right now, they're chilling in the middle of the map, which is probably susceptible to artillery fire. But as you can see, the spider itself is visible to the T-Sang and every other mech that is not adjacent to a level 2 building or higher.
And he's shooting the building itself to try to collapse it under the spider, it looks like.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. So yeah, I guess if you have line of sight to the spider, you have line of sight to that building hex, due to the way line of sight works in this game.
Um, I take it back. I think he might be shooting the building, but it looks like it's the same, or maybe it might be slightly taller than the one that's in between it. So we'll see.
Oh, gotcha. Well, we'll have to check the combat log and once that comes up.
And Mega Mech is very funky when it comes to buildings. Those buildings are all different CF values. You've got little pop-up tents next to hardened bunkers, and they're all different heights too. It looks like there's probably a metaphor I was going to go with, but I'll hold off on something very bumpy and scruffy. A cat's tongue. We'll go with that. Like they're all uneven, so it's going to be very chaotic, unlike the pre-generated ones where there's usually a bit more standardization.
Okay, so we can go ahead and pull up the combat log for that first round. It doesn't look like any fire hit, but we can see what maybe that that T-Sang was shooting at. So there's the piling checks for those plainsmen, the Vindicator, and the T-Sang for running on pavement,
I'm glad nobody rolled a snake eyes.
right? And it's very good that he put his piling down to 3 because if not, one of those plainsmen would have missed that flanking roll.
Looks like some off-board artillery firing and missing.
Oh,
One,
whoops,
one
that
too far.
was yeah, hang on.
I was
Looks
about to
like
say
there
the artillery
looks
shouldn't
like
have landed yet.
that is correct. Looks like we pre-scrolled there. So here's the movement phase, but the same is true. It's good that he lowered his piloting skill to make those flanking maneuvers. So it looks like the medium pulse lasers were aimed at the T-Sang, and the T-Sang was firing back at the Spider. It looks like he only had a chance to hit him with that ER large. The rest of those shots were just to get his TSM running. So completely understandable.
Yep. Although he's only got one T saying that he was getting heat up on. I know there was.
Unless it's yeah, here it is. Here's another T
There's
saying.
he's
Looks
also
like he
got
was just
the
rolling and rolling.
Vindicator, but he's got the Vindicator and he's got the Star Slayer as well with TSM that he could have been getting heat up.
That's true. The Vindicator's sitting at 0 heat, and so is the Star Slayer. I wonder if there's a particular reason for that. I mean, maybe he knows that Alroy is likely taking Infernos on some of those missile launchers that he's got.
Does TSM cancel out the first to shoot penalty that you get at 8 heat?
No, you carry on that -1 to shoot when
Mm,
you're sitting at 9 heat.
maybe
It's
that's
yeah, that could be it. He just wants to shoot without the extra +1 penalty.
okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get back into round 2. So you can see where Luke pre-designated his shells for this turn. So there's the 2 from last turn, which will be landing this turn, I do believe. And here's the 2 for this current turn right here. So sticking around the center of the map, uh, I mean, even if they drift a little bit, you're likely to damage some buildings. Or maybe get lucky and have them drift into an opponent's mech. We know that Mad Cat of Alroy's is in the area.
Is there ever a reason to want to just blow up buildings instead of trying to get lucky with your enemy's movement choices?
Yeah, actually, you can make yourself lines of fire if you so choose. I was actually considering that with if I had a different list that relied more on a sniper mech, but fortunately my sniper mech could jump, so it wasn't that much of an issue for me. But if you have a stationary sniper like that Mad Cat that can't really jump and is forced to walk around, it may be worth it to pre-plot some of those hexes right in a cluster of 5 or 6 buildings, like right here, and just wipe out a whole portion of the block and line them up so you can make yourself some lines of fire.
Kicking seems like that would be a way to make use of all those extra clicks you have to do at the end of the turn if you were doing that.
Oh yeah, I kicked every single building every turn when I played this match. It's annoying that it prompts you every single turn whether or not you want to kick an adjacent building or punch for that matter. But I mean, since it gives you the prompt, you might as well click yes, as long as you're going to automatically hit and not cause yourself to fall.
Now, Luke's T Sang jumped behind some buildings there. I think he was trying to get some cover, but seems like he would have a potential line of sight to an enemy 3 hexes north of it.
Yeah, he should. Uh, there's no forest or anything in the way, so there shouldn't be anything stopping him from seeing that particular hex right there that you were mentioning.
Yeah, we'll see if he was trying to hide. I don't know with mech sensors how that all works exactly, but seems
Uh,
a little risky.
So the way I understand it is, at the beginning of the turn, your sensors get a roll, and if the mech is not hidden, uh, or if it's not, I think if your opponent knows where it is, you'll get some sort of notification. Like it won't say H, or it'll say something else, like a D for detected. I don't remember, but those sensor pings tell you where the mechs are at the beginning of the turn, and once they move, the ping disappears. So
Ah,
yeah, so Luke jumping his T saying over there means that a ping just vanished, and since it's still got the H, which means it's hidden, Elroy has no idea where that thing went currently. Now,
gotcha.
one thing I have noticed is that if you walk or jump a mech, the little animation that plays out when they move, there's a chance that they'll get a glimpse of it as it like jumps over or across or runs across an alleyway or whatever, and they will be able to see it or
And if
catch a
they're
glimpse of it and have an idea of where it went.
they're jumping in a straight line.
Yeah, correct. So it's easy to predict where they're going to land.
Now, if that spider's jumped all the way back there, unless you're going to shoot out from under it, it seems like leaving it alone is probably the best option. I mean, it's not going to shoot you.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why he jumped the spider first, or I should say this early, and jumped it way back there. He might be looking for
It's
some of Alroy's mechs, or for some of Luke's mechs that he can't see currently.
Yeah, I think it's scouting because when he jumped up there, I noticed the T Sang way up to the north became visible.
Ah, gotcha. That and the hermit crab is also up on a level 6 hill. So the hermit crab can see the T Sang, I think, probably.
There is no pedestal too tall for a hermit crab's glory.
The smallest but most regal of crab mechs. So that's interesting. The Wolverine and the Dervish, were they revealed before, or were they not revealed until that Star Slayer moved up?
I think they were not revealed until that Star Slayer moved up. And what's this? Is it a?
No,
Is it,
he
okay.
can't charge because they haven't moved yet.
Correct.
So I don't know if Luke notices that the Wolverine and Dervish haven't moved yet because he just walked his T Sang right up into the face of that Wolverine.
Yeah, which the Wolverine can just, you know, jump behind the T Sang or jump and gank the Star Slayer.
Yeah, it can jump either right to the left of it or off to the side a bit and unload into that Star Slayer.
Why not both? Use the dervish. This is one of the few times where I would say it's best not to jump immediately behind those T-Sangs because they still have a hatchet and their TSM is armed. So if you don't kill it with your shooting, it can torso twist and hit you with the hatchet.
Yeah, you do not want to get hatcheted. Uh, I would also suggest the Star Slayer because it has a very low movement modifier right now, and you're likely not going to get another chance like this in the game.
And the heavy PPC, I think, still has a minimum range penalty. So if you do jump and right on top of that Star Slayer, you're negating its biggest weapon.
Yeah, you can jump maybe if you do jump into melee. Oh, that's a
No,
lucky
there it
jump
is,
for that
Echo.
dervish. So the first dervish goes into the rear of the T-Sang number one, which
Yeah,
jumped off
exactly
to the
like you
side.
called it.
Yep. And that's a safe jump because that Star Slayer or the other T-Sang cannot retaliate, and he's one hex out of melee, but still in the rear arc. So no hatchet for the dervish, but the dervish doesn't have his TSM activated. So I think he's perfectly happy with that exchange there.
And he's trying to move his. He's got both planesmen on top of each other. We'll have to ask him why he did that, because you can split them. You don't have to keep them as a point.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it would most definitely behoove him to split them up currently. That way he can start blocking off movement paths for his opponent. Like, you know that Wolverine's going to more than likely jump for 5 somewhere. Maybe you
Uh,
could put that plainsman right at 5 hexes away in that heavy forest or adjacent to that heavy forest where he's going to be jumping.
mhm.
And you can predict or try and predict where you think that Wolverine might go and cut off his escape routes. Although the Wolverine landing in the plainsman's hex is not bad for it because the plainsman can't shoot at it, but the Wolverine can still kick it.
Might be a +3 or something if that happens, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but it's a free shot that the Wolverine can get that the plainsman can't retaliate against.
Correct. I would love to see a mech go prone on top of a vehicle, though, and then thrash.
Oh, okay. I don't think I like that move. The Wolverine jumped directly behind the T-Sang. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of firepower, but you better hope you put that T-Sang down this round. If not, it's going to turn around and whack you with that hatchet, and it's going to hurt.
So if we do the math, the T-Sang jumped for 5, so it's 2 plus 1 for jumping 3. Then his mechs jumped, so that's +3, you're at +6. The piloting skill on them, which would have been 4s, 10s. Okay, -2 for pulse lasers if you got them. It's pretty high.
Which the Wolverine does, and the Dervish has the targeting computer. So you're looking at 8s and 9s for the most part, with some 10s sprinkled in there for those SRM launchers.
And that T-Sang can still, if you don't kill it, it's going to hatchet that Wolverine, and it is going to be ugly.
Yeah, and it's a 60-ton mech. It is not lightly armored, even in the rear.
That is one advantage of the T-Sang against the Night Sky, even though it's only another 10 tons, is its rear armor is 9, 6, and 6 versus the Night Sky, which is 6, 5, and 5. So that little extra just means it can survive getting in brawls because the XL engine on the Night Sky hurts it, but the weak armor as well for something that's supposed to be in a brawl just doesn't make it work.
Now, I still don't like him doubling up these plainsmen. He should be spreading them out, cutting off lanes of escape for his opponent. He should be hunting that Mad Cat with these things, more than likely trying to trap it. Speaking of which, the Mad Cat just showed up and has a clean line of fire on that Vindicator.
Let's see what happened here.
Off-board artillery lands, but I don't think it hits anything. Just hexes and a couple of buildings taking some damage.
Hmm.
So nothing to write home about. Go ahead and skip that. Getting into firing, though, I mean, the Vindicator's only shot is that Mad Cat. The Mad Cat's only shot is that Vindicator. You can assume they're just going to trade with each other. And funnily enough, I think that Vindicator might have more weapons to bring to bear than the Mad Cat does.
Well, Mad Cat's got those ATM high explosives.
True, and it's within 3 hexes, so there's no reason for it not to bring out the big missiles this time around. So 2 ER larges, which are 99% chance and short range, and the 2 ATM 9s that are likely going to be high explosive variant in short range as well.
And you
Uh,
see he's twisting his torso, possibly to see what he can shoot with. But
yeah, he's got
I
weapons in that left arm. I think he would have been better off twisting to the right and hoping he makes it through the turn to get that hatchet off.
agreed.
I think that hatchet's going to be his best bet to actually hit, and it's going to do more damage than any of his weapons that he's got. Especially considering these are 4-3 pilots. Yeah, I don't really agree with that, but maybe he's not expecting to survive the round.
Well, but still shooting 12s into that Wolverine.
Yeah,
I'd rather take the 11 on the hatchet.
I agree completely. It should be a 10 on the hatchet.
Oh,
if not lower. No, it should be a 9 on the hatchet because you're a 3 pilot and you have the -2.
that's right. The pilot skills are different. But no,
Oh, wait,
hatchet's just
-1,
-1.
-1. Sorry. So it'll be a 10,
Tens, yeah.
which is still a lot better than 12s.
Hmm. I know we say just roll 12s, but
It's not
sometimes,
easy.
well, sometimes we choose to roll less than 12.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use all your 12s all at once. People will get suspicious. Right, Pirate?
So that's why you keep changing your dice out. Oh, these dice suck. I'm going to bring these dice and use them this one time. You see someone showing up with a bag of dice, it's not because they all suck. It's bad juju.
Yeah, and not in the they roll bad juju. It's bad juju as in it's making them roll really good. All right, so Vindicator trading fire with the Mad Cat, Wolverine, and Dervish are more than likely going to unload in that T Sang. Let's fast forward a little bit here because it's just the firing phase of like round 4. Uh,
Round 2.
oh, sorry, round 2. T Sang fire, exchanging fire with the Night Sky, the only available target for it.
It's not the worst target because it is kind of weak armor.
All right, and let's pull up our combat log so that we can get a detailed look at this and take our time. So here's all the pilot rolls needed to get through the phase. And here is the artillery for the round, hitting nothing but buildings. Oh, hey, light woods converted into rough terrain. Good to know. Okay, Vindicator firing at the Mad Cat. A complete air barrel whiffs everything on 9s
You know
and
who does,
111.
you know who doesn't miss though? The Mad Cat on the Vindicator.
Yep, needs 6s with those ER larges. Puts 10 damage into the right leg and 10 damage into the left arm and hits with both of those ATM 9s. Hits with, what is that, 9 missiles? Jesus.
Yep. High explosives, 9 missiles, 27 damage.
That hurts. That is an AC-20's worth of damage. Actually, more. An AC-20 and an ER medium laser's worth of damage in one weapon. Holy crap.
But it's not
Maybe.
concentrated, even though a lot of that hit the torsos and center.
True. It's chunks of 5 damage. So he basically hit him with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 medium lasers all at once with that one weapon. And then the second ATM 9 hits, and he only takes 15 damage. And I say only, jokingly, because that's still a decent amount of damage for
Ah,
only 5 of those 9 missiles hitting.
I was rooting for that T saying, look at it. It tried. It rolled it. It needed 12s. It rolled it a 10 and an 11.
Oh, so close. But the return fire from the Wolverine and I think the Dervish don't really come to fruition. One weapon from each hits, and it's a small pulse laser and an ER medium hitting an arm, and the small pulse hitting the center torso rear. So the T Sang is coming out of this pretty much unscathed until the melee phase.
Is there anything that didn't need a 12 to hit? I'm looking at needs 12, needs 12.
Well, the T Sang,
Oh,
I'm
I know.
sorry, the Wolverine needed 10s,
I
like
was
we called
joking.
earlier. But yeah, there's a whole lot of missing throughout the rest of the round. Nothing else really hits.
And the Vindicator needs a 6 to not fall over and roll a 4.
Oof, did not quite make it. And he's actually a base 3 pilot. So he took 60 damage this turn. Good lord. That is a ton of damage being poured into that little mech. And it took it like a champ. I don't think it went internal anywhere.
So this is the TAC Ops rule where every 20 points is +1 to your PSR, not just flat 20 plus. So you may not see this rule turned on every game you play, but it is a rule that I like.
Yeah, I like it too. It means that yes, you have your big old tanky 100-ton assault mech, but if it gets wailed on by your entire lance, there's a chance it's going to fall over, a significant chance. And it also means more reason to bump your piloting skill up instead of just dumping your gunnering skill.
And it looks like the Wolverine kicks the T Sang, but nothing much happened after that.
Yep, just shaving 11 armor off that left leg of the T Sang. Makes his piloting check, so he's still standing, which means he can jump next turn. And that's it for the turn. Nothing really to write home about as far as heat is concerned, except that Elroy now has his night sky at 9 heat. So he too has a TSM active mech, and the Vindicator's up to 12. So he's a little over, but his TSM is still active.
All these TSM mechs are making me want to go watch like that old movie Ultimate Soldier or something.
Or robot jocks or whatever.
Yeah, it's very dangerous things have now been activated.
All right, so it looks like initiative for round 3 goes to Luke. So Elroy will be moving first. Let's go ahead and skip to it. And then we're back. Now, hang on. What's going on here? Oh, he's declaring melee attacks. Okay. This is from the previous turn, I think. All right, now we're into the movement phase. And the hammer crab. Hermit crab jumps a little closer to get a better view of the field. He's up on a level 6 building, adjacent to the Mad Cat currently.
Yeah, the hammer crab is the new heavyweight class crab mech.
Yeah, that would be a bitchin' mech. I'd love to see that. It would definitely have to have a mace or something in one of its arms.
The claw hammer.
Yeah, now we're talking. But give it hatchet stats so people will actually use it.
Yes. You
Just
mean like that?
You do accept.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, and it involves a Black Knight, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Black Knight that has a sword-shaped hatchet, quote unquote.
Hatchet.
Because everybody knows the hatchet is superior, but
I don't
the
think
sword is more knightly.
We haven't even talked to each other about that one. We just both instinctively knew from the community. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah. Don't you just love the BattleTech memes?
So it looks like the Star Slayer is trying to pick where to jump. I don't know if I like that. Man, move one of the planesmen first. Get those initiative syncs out, because your Star Slayer can still backstab or shoot up an alley.
Yeah, I would really love to see him move one of those planesmen directly into the front of that Mad Cat. Because he has an artillery shell, I think, coming down this turn that's going to be near that vicinity. So there's a chance it'll drift toward that Mad Cat. Hey, what do you know?
Why are you worried about that, though? Because he can move the Mad Cat through one unit.
No, if he enters the hex with the planesman, he has to stop. He can't move through that hex. So he either moves forward for one hex and has no TMM, or he backs up and gets closer to where that artillery shell is coming in.
Well, in that case, get the lower TMM and jump the Star Slayer behind him and shoot the PPC right in his back.
Yeah, that's also an option. But you're also throwing your Star Slayer closer to the possible landing zone of that artillery shell that you called in last turn.
We have friendly fire turned off, right?
Nope. Friendly fire is not friendly. So it is a risk to do that with the Star Slayer. But he did move the planesman up into the front hex of that Mad Cat. So if he chooses not to move that Mad Cat, he can trap him pretty much this turn and give him the option of either moving into one of the adjacent buildings or moving into that one clear hex to the north.
So with the artillery, it looks like it looks like they need 9s to hit the hex that they spot or target that isn't a pre-designated hex. So you have to think 27% of the time you'll hit where you intend. Otherwise, you're going to start scattering.
Yeah, and I think it's scatters by the amount that you missed by.
Correct, the amount you missed.
So if I'm not mistaken, that Mad Cat just vanished, which means more than likely it moved up into that empty plains hex off the road. This is where you have to kind of play hide and go seek with your opponent a little bit.
Or you DFA into the hex. Jump into the hex.
Unfortunately, it won't let you incidental DFA and double blind. Unless I'm mistaken, I did this in a practice match with Brad where I jumped into the hex he was in and it stopped me short. I didn't know he was there because his unit was hidden, and it stopped me one hex short from where he was and did not let me enter that hex. So there
Ah,
are no incidental DFAs, as far as I know.
have you ever heard the word incidental before you started playing BattleTech?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, fair enough. I've heard it a lot more in the last 2 months than I have, probably in the last some odd years.
Oh, I think that Mad Cat may have pulled a Houdini
Ooh.
because it's not in the hex I thought it was in. But I'm forgetting it's a Mad Cat. It can move 5'8". It could back up for 5 hexes and go around that little corner, which is dangerously close to where that artillery shell is going to land.
Oh, Elroy doesn't know that.
No, he doesn't. But it does mean that he will not have eyes on that Mad Cat after moving that Vindicator like he thought he would.
Man, we
Like
even
I
have
thought he would.
Luke's bringing out the calculator here. Big brain is about to happen.
But the good news is that he could unload onto that hermit crab in point blank range, or the building it's standing on, depending on which one is more likely for him to fall.
This is hilarious. He's trying to add up how much overkill he needs to do on that spider, I believe. When shooting the building out from under him, possibly, because that's what I would need to know.
That, or he's calculating how much heat it needs to generate for TSM. You never know. But we're getting a little look behind the Luke's curtain here and seeing him do the math.
I'm gonna go with shooting the building out from under the hermit crab.
I agree with you. That's the only reason he would need to count that high. Once you get past 9, you can stop counting when you have TSM activated.
And if I was gonna do that, the night sky and the Vindicator are gonna go at it.
Okay, so maybe he's just gonna mass damage onto that building, and I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps that Star Slayer, or walks it right into that other hex. Nope, looks like he's backing him up.
Heavy PPC range.
Oh, okay, he's gonna be shooting at the Hermit Crab then. I was expecting him to shoot at the building and force the Hermit Crab to fall.
Fall damage surprisingly isn't going to be that detrimental unless you're multiple levels up. So if that's like a level 4 building, that's going to be catastrophic.
Yeah, he's on level 5, so
Oh, then yeah.
I would shoot the building. I mean, the building's not dodging, so you're probably gonna auto hit, and with that -4 for a mobile target.
And if you
And
jumped in that hex adjacent to the Hermit Crab, you could kick the building with both your Super TSM and your Star Slayer.
correct. So there's a high likelihood that either A, you shoot the building during the shooting phase and the building collapses, the Hermit Crab takes a bunch of fall damage, and it will be prone during the melee phase. So then you can triple kick it with the Night Sky, the Vindicator, and the Star Slayer.
Oh, that's
But
just evil. I didn't even think
right,
about the triple kick.
yeah. But unfortunately, he decided to move that Star Slayer back for whatever reason.
And it's only unfortunate if he can't shoot the Night Sky and hit.
True. So the Star Slayer does have line, I think, to the Hermit Crab and maybe to that Wolverine. I'm not sure.
So T-Sang's gonna go after that. This is when we
Oh,
find out Elroy has artillery on top of the Plainsman.
oh, and there's that Mad Cat. He backed up for 5, apparently, from the looks of it. But
And
he is literally adjacent to the artillery landing hex.
well, and he moved, but he also has a intervening woods to the jumping T-Sang, so it might be okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't fire at that Mad Cat if I were that T-Saying. You'd either go for the building the Hermit Crab is in, or probably the Hermit Crab itself. Or maybe, depending on what you have line of sight wise, maybe the building that the Wolverine's on. Because I think that's a level 1 building directly north of that T-Saying. Usually the
That's
buildings with the dish are only level 1.
yeah, sounds like Plainsman bait.
Yep.
Or, would be interesting is like you mentioned, get that T-Sang to shoot the Wolverine, and then kick the building so that he falls during the melee phase.
Oh yeah, good call. Oh,
But it looks like he's going after the Dervish instead there on a walk or a run.
yeah. He's trying to run to get into melee with the dervish. That is going to be 1, 2 piloting skill rolls, and it looks like it gets harder the more you have to make. So he doesn't want to go for that 5, I think 4 or 5 that he's got to make for that piloting check to avoid skidding. I think he's going
It's
to go for
worth
the
it.
jump.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I would take that risk for the -1 to all your weapons if it were rear arc. But since it's only going to be side arc on the dervish, yeah, I think he might as well just jump.
My headcanon says Luke isn't actually trying to calculate damage. He's randomly generating lottery numbers because he's going to get real lucky here in a second.
That's also entirely possible.
Do it. Do it. You can make the pilot rolls. Run. Run like the T sang that you are.
Too bad he doesn't quite have enough run to charge him and push him into that building.
Oh, that would also be hilarious.
Yeah, that would hurt. Well, I mean, he's better off kicking him, realistically, because that TSM just doubles his kick damage. Oh, he went for it, and he made both of those piloting checks. So you and Elroy, or I'm sorry, you and Luke are on the same wavelength there.
Something about melee mechs and TSM and just rolling consecutively 12s makes you do that.
All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mechs for Elroy. Does he only have 5 mechs?
No, he's got the Spider, the Hermit Crab, the Dervish, Wolverine, Night Sky, and Mad Cat.
Okay, so the spider is the one we're missing. We cannot see it, I do believe, right now. So it's off doing spider things somewhere.
That's when you burn your house down.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'd like to see that plainsman either double up. Oh, wait, there's a spider. My bad. Oh, it must have just shown up now that I think about it. I definitely don't remember it being there before. I think you run that plainsman adjacent into the same hex as your other plainsman and just unload into that building the spider's standing on. Hoping you get a decent cluster roll to drop that building and make that spider take damage. Oh, and it looks like an artillery shot for Luke nails the hermit crab for 10 damage. So
And
it
that would be the
drifted.
building that it's on too.
Yeah. So it drifted away from the Mad Cat and nailed the hermit crab instead.
No, 87 construction factor remaining though.
Ooh, that's a lot of construction factor. That's probably why he landed on that building, specifically because of how much health it had.
I agree.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. In the intermission, I was able to find that T Sang apparently means what was it here? It means the king of the earth's womb.
Well, that's not a phrase you hear every day, but I will definitely take their word for it. Okay, so the Timberwolf is taking the only shots it has on that T-Sang, which is to be expected. And it looks like the T-Sang is unloading into that Night Sky, which decided to go into melee with 2 TSM mechs. I don't know if I like that call. Was that his last move, or am I seeing things?
It's a night sky pilot. It's gonna happen.
So not
So
only is he in line of fire of the Star Slayer, which basically had terrible shots up to this point, but he's in line of fire of the 2 plainsmans as well, and in melee range of a T-Sang and the Vindicator, which is definitely TSM active.
so remember he jumped his night sky there to block one T Sang. He didn't know that the other T Sang and the night Star Slayer would move the way they did yet.
Ah, okay, that's right.
Although again, night sky pilots do have to be a little cuckoo.
Good to know. If I ever decide to use one, I'll have to play similarly. Okay, so the Dervish and the T-Sang exchanging fire with each other as to be expected. The Wolverine throwing some shots at the I forgot what's down there further south. Oh, there it is, Star Slayer.
My money is still on all the hatchets are going to get critted out before they get to use them.
Funnily enough, that happens pretty often because they're in the arms. I forgot who I did that to. They were all bummed out because they were in melee range finally, and then I critted out their hatchet. They're like, "Oh man!"
It's happened to me more times than I care to talk about.
It may have been you.
Oh, let's see. Round 3 damage here.
Hang on. Let's pull up our combat log so we can go as slow as we want. I mean, as fast as we can. Okay, whoop, a little too far. Here we go. So it looks like the Mad Cat misses with everything but one ATM-9 on that T-Sang. So lights him up a little bit for 15 damage.
Vindicator takes a couple pot shots on the Night Sky, but the Night Sky, that's a large pulse laser to the head of the Vindicator. Doesn't kill it, but strips all the armor and takes a piloting hit.
Oh yeah, that is now a convertible Vindicator. That is some aggressive laser eye surgery.
Well, it looks like the T-Sang misses mostly everything. Wolverine whiffs. Star Slayer, its heavy PPC though does hit the center torso of the Night Sky, begins the process of coring it out.
There you go, making some good progress there. 15 damage. That is one spicy meatball.
That Dervish didn't fire his ATMs. Maybe it couldn't get in the arc or multi-missile launchers.
Oh yeah, they're torso mounted, if I remember correctly.
They are. So probably just one of the arms turned.
Yep, that right arm with all those ER mediums, I think.
You got another T-Sang. Does hit with a medium laser, but nothing to write home about. Spider doing a little work on the Vindicator. Plainsman, one miss, but it's got some dead fire hits on the Night Sky.
Ooh, oh, speaking of which, going forward in the tournament, Deadfire SRMs, I think, are banned because they're not functioning properly in Mega Mech currently.
Yeah, there's 2 reasons for that. When they're hot loaded, they don't explode when the weapon's critted out. We found that in my game against Vapor, which probably would have changed the way the match ended. And the second thing is they're rolling in clusters of 2 for LRMs, and that's been fixed. We're playing on 48, which is March 21st, 2021, and they've been fixed in the latest version since October of 2021 to do in clusters of 5. So there's some damage calculations that are wrong too.
Yeah, so until we get the new version of Mega Mech, they're going to be unavailable going forward. But you get to see him here, at least.
All right. Well, Plainsman 2 whiffs, but let's get into the melee phase after seeing everybody pass their piloting rolls with very high numbers.
Yeah, needs 5s and 4s on the Night Sky and the Vindicator, respectively, but they both make it. Physical attack for Night Sky kicks the left leg of the Vindicator, hits him, needs a 5, rolls a 7, 2 internal structure remaining, rolls a crit, and it's limb blown off, left leg blown off. So that Vindicator is probably not going to be long for this world now that he's short one leg.
So possibly one of the most disappointing things that I've seen. The physical attack for the Vindicator needs a 6, rolls a 4, and misses.
That just hurts, especially after you use the leg, which means you're never going to be able to swing that sword again.
It gets worse though. T-Sang needs a 12 somehow on the Dervish and misses on a 10. T-Sang needs an 8 on the Night Sky with a hatchet and misses on a 7.
Oh, that just hurts to watch. Oh, and here we go. Vindicator must make 3 piloting skill rolls because A, his leg was destroyed, B, he was kicked, and C, he took 20 plus damage. Well, it doesn't matter because he's missing a whole ass leg, so he automatically falls. He takes 5 damage to the head, and didn't he get hit by a large pulse laser?
Oh
which
yeah.
means his head is destroyed and he crits out his life support, which means he's dead and he has no air conditioning.
So not only are you dead, you're really dead. You're so dead that there's no resuscitating you.
Yep, and your body's gonna be sweaty when they pick you up because that AC unit got damaged.
Oof, that's brutal.
So that is the firing phase, or I'm sorry, that is the combat phase is done for round 3, and Luke is short 1 mech. And it's
So
not a big mech, but that still hurts.
the prophecy of never being able to use your melee weapons is still holding true.
I mean, he swung it, it just didn't connect. All right. Well, getting into round 4, it looks like Elroy wins initiative, so Luke's going to have to move first. Let's go ahead and get caught up to the action here. Here's indirect attacks. So they've already declared their new sniper shots for the turn. So now we're getting into movement phase. And since Luke is now currently down 1 mech, do you think he's going to lay up on the aggression, or do you think he needs to just double down and get into the mix and start coring some of these mechs out?
So, having played Luke and seen him play a few times, his strategies are usually very different than mine, so it's going to be hard to predict. I see him as more of a defensive and reflective player, not a emotional one that's just going to be like, "You killed my mech. I'm going to go kick your behind." So I could see him, since he lost initiative, trying to play a little more defensively this turn.
Do you think he's going to try and hide some of his mechs now? Just jump
Um,
to unexpected hexes defensively?
Maybe either that or try to lure Elroy into a pre-designated plot.
That's also not a bad idea, especially considering those 2 that are to the right of this kerfluffle where the Vindicator squish is in the middle, are
Mhm.
gonna land this turn.
So if you could somehow encourage them to get into those alleys, then yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that Mad Cat would be easy to trap there. Maybe that Night Sky. He'd have to jump his T-Sang to be pretty close to that auto hit that he has right there in the middle in
No,
order to dangle the carrot.
the auto hit doesn't matter too much. You could jump into that light woods that's 2 hexes north of the other artillery shell.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was thinking. 1672, I think it is.
Yep,
Or 1612, sorry.
and that would encourage him to get right up next to that center.
Yep. So it is definitely his turn to move first, and he takes the first move by not moving his Star Slayer. Uh, I don't know if I like that. Granted, it's off to the side by itself, but it is definitely not out of reach of some of these smaller, faster mechs, like that Spider or that Hermit Crab.
Spider to center torso rear of Star Slayer done.
Yeah, I mean that's the easy move, but you want to get as much TMM out of that thing as possible. Because he can always just turn around and run those plainsmans right into your hex or right into adjacency.
He could still get 7 jump behind the Star Slayer, 2 hexes back, and still be in short range of the medium pulse.
Yeah, that is exactly where you want to go then. That way you keep your modifier up high. Oh, yep, there we go. Looks like he's already collapsing on that Star Slayer, punishing it for not moving.
Construction at factor 84. He's relatively safe, that Night Sky.
Yeah, I think that nice guy's what, a 50 tonner maybe?
Mm. Now, if you shoot buildings with SRMs, I think all the SRMs hit.
I think that is correct. So they will do the full 12 damage.
Have have your plainsmen become, wrecking crews.
And honestly, since it's up 4 high, that may be the way to go.
And it's an XL engine on a relatively fragile armored mech.
Yeah, not to mention it'll be prone adjacent to you if you can get that building down in the melee phase.
I need to remember that trick because that will come in clutch someday.
Oh yeah. Basically, I am too much of a chicken to ever jump on top of a building, even if it has a significant construction factor like 80. So I will always jump adjacent to the building, like he did with the hermit crab there, if possible.
Uh-oh. We're going to see the T Sang go to the rear of the night sky, I believe. Or nope.
I think he just needs to get to that side and unload into that building to get him to fall during the gunnery phase. Although that will expose his rear into that empty hex right there, which I don't think is worth it. But apparently he does.
I think it's more so if he went straight, the Wolverine and the Dervish could just collapse on his rear.
I mean, they can still do that. The Wolverine can jump for 5 and get into his rear
Mm,
easily.
But now they have to jump instead of walk.
No, that's fair.
84, which is the construction factor of that building, -8, -24. He's
Yep,
calculating.
he's doing the math now. And there goes that Wolverine making that jump.
So this is when you torso twist the T Sang 1 hex north, so that if you needed to, you could hatchet the Wolverine, but you still have the Night Sky in your front firing arc and your legs.
Yeah, and you still have the option to kick the Night Sky if you deem it necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to see him jump that T-Sang. Yeah, exactly, right there, just south of that Wolverine. So the Mad Cat can't get anywhere useful right now. Maybe it can move up and take a shot at the Star Slayer. But that's going to be its only real move if that T-Sang makes that jump. The Spider can still get into basically anything's rear arc. And surprisingly enough, he hasn't moved those Plainsmans yet. He's saving them for last, which I find to be curious. You want to move those things first. That way you can get better positioning with your mechs, which are significantly more dangerous than those little hover tanks.
Don't move there because he's just going to walk his Mad Cat 1 hex up unless that's your attempt to try to trap him.
Yep. Although, okay, yeah, there we go. He went for it. Good.
I don't know if I would have rotated him that way. I would have tried to keep my back to a building.
Yeah, I agree. I would have kept my back to that height 4 building. That way, the Spider can't shoot and kick in your rear arc for free.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I wouldn't do that with the Spider anyway because that's too low of a TMM for it. But it's still a risk, and if Elroy's a gambling man, then he might take that risk.
Now, one thing to call out is we are talking a lot about Luke's move and Luke's strategy, partly because we can't really see what Elroy's doing or clicking. But
Exactly.
I am seeing Elroy play very aggressively to the rear arc, and I can't help but wonder if that Mad Cat is going to pop itself in a position where the only thing that can shoot it is the Star Slayer, and it has enough armor to tank a hit from that.
Oh, you can see he's trying to charge. There we go. And he can't quite get the charge into that Hermit Crab with the Plainsman.
No, he's trying to get maximum damage on the Hermit Crab with the Plainsman.
I read the little pop-up. It said it couldn't charge, but now he's trying to get it. There we go. Damage to target 18 in 5-point clusters
Yeah,
using kick table.
not using it's not far enough. Oh, he's going for it though.
Yep, and I think he can do it twice with that other Plainsman as well. Oh, I see. The Dervish moved into the Hex with the Plainsman.
Mm.
So there is no penalty to move out of the Hex with another unit, but you can't move in. You'll immediately stop if you do. Oh, and the Spider's jumping to get in the rear arc of the Star Slayer. I'm half tempted to charge the damn Spider with the other Plainsman.
That's exactly what he's doing.
Oh, he looks like he's moving up. Oh, he doesn't
Oh,
have.
He's
Yeah,
trying. He's doing the running start. You know when you like take 8 steps back from the pool before you start barreling in.
yeah, but because that dervish is in the way, he can't. It's going to stop him.
And greatly minimize the amount of damage he does. Now, one thing to note is when you charge with a hover, you're going to take some damage, and that'll probably immobilize you. So it's a trick you can use once.
Yeah, you're basically a one-shot missile at this point. And I don't think he went for the charge there. He just went to move to get those SRMs into play. Maybe to add some extra firepower on that building to drop the night sky. But I think that's all of Luke's movement. The last unit to move looks like it's going to be that Mad Cat.
I will tell Luke he doesn't have to move his planesmen together, but maybe he just likes to.
Yeah, it might be easier for him to keep track of them that way.
Or preference, because I think there is a lot of CBT that does it that way, but we're in the firing phase now.
Ooh, and that Mad Cat ran for 8 from the looks of it and just got right into the mix. He's not in rear arc of that T-Sang, but he is definitely in short range of that T-Sang, and I think short to medium with all that Star Slayer, depending on which
And
weapons he uses.
and the T-Sang is firing into the building.
Man, look at all those sticky notes he has. I mean, I use sticky notes at work. I haven't thought about using them in the middle of a BattleTech match. Although, once we start shooting forests in real life at NashCon, I'm going to have sticky notes everywhere.
Well, back to I thought Luke was a reflective player who plans out his moves carefully. That kind of says it right there.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. All right, so we can get into skipping some of these lines of fire, get through this a little bit quicker. Oh, it's a little too quick.
Too
Oh,
quick.
I gotta see red. No, don't spoil it.
No.
Okay. All right, hang on. So spiders going in on the plainsman from the looks of it. So is the hermit crab. Star Slayer's going in on that mad cat. I think maybe the other planes. No, the plainsmans are trading with the hermit crab and the spider respectively. Looks like the T-Sangs. I'm not sure what the hell the T-Sang's shooting at.
The T-Sang, so T-Sang there is shooting at the collapsed building underneath the night sky.
Okay. And then the other T-Sang is shooting into that Wolverine that he jumped adjacent to. And the Mad Cat is shooting at the T-Sang. So
This is a very confused sprawl.
yeah, this is a clear fluffle with an elongated conga line, sort of.
This is this is the lunch buffet. It's gotten nasty real fast.
Yeah, this is a knockdown, drag out food fight.
I imagine there's going to be a lot of death even without the sneak preview.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so we'll get into our combat log because we can go as fast as we can.
So the artillery doesn't do much of anything.
No, just blows up some trees or whatever. So the T-Sang unloads into the building. It's like, yeah, the shot automatically hits. 5 points, 8 points, 5 points, 66 CF
Oh,
remaining.
take a look. It's a heavy building. I wonder if that affects the. No, it doesn't affect the damage.
It affects the damage absorption if you're in the building, I do believe. Or actually, I take that back. Light, medium, and heavy, and I guess assault buildings, which are called reinforced buildings, determine how much construction factor they have. So a heavy building will have anywhere from the standard assault weights. They're not exactly equivalent to mech weights, but they're fairly similar.
I like how it's an automatic to hit, but he still needed to roll to confirm it.
Yeah, no kidding. What happens if he rolls snake eyes? Does he decide to not hit at that point?
So Mad Cat actually misses. Needed 8s on that T-Sang.
Yeah, surprisingly, he only fired 3 weapons as well.
Probably because he knew the numbers were high. Maybe he was overheating. And the spider gets the plainsman on the side, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah, hits him on the side table, which is usually really great for generating crits, but doesn't find it this time. And the plainsman's got enough armor to take that pulse laser like a champ.
T-Sang needed 10s. One of them hits the Wolverine.
Yeah, Luke is just not hitting with a lot of his rolls. Granted, he needs pretty high target numbers, but what do we have here? Weapons fire for Hermit Crab. ER medium laser at the Plainsman medium hover tank. Needs 9, rolls 11.
Through
Takes,
armor critical.
Jesus, 5 damage to turret. Automatic hits the ammo on the poor little Plainsman, and that thing is just dead. 532 damage to the turret due to an ammo explosion. Oh,
That's
hey,
probably more damage than every other weapon fired this game.
oh yeah, easily, including the artillery. But one thing to note, the SRM-6 malfunctions, just in case you were worried about that. So that is one more unit down for Luke. That's not good. That's one lucky shot and one lucky kill for Elroy.
Wolverine, pulse lasers, putting in a little work on that T-Sang.
Yep, starting to shave down the armor.
So that Star Slayer, it rolls a center torso hit on the Mad Cat. So I think that Star Slayer is a ace pilot when it comes to just aiming at CT.
Oh, yeah, with that heavy PPC anyways. That's 2 turns in a row. He's nailed the center torso of a mech with it. Unfortunately, he's not real good with those medium lasers. He only needed 6s with those and whiffed both of them with a 3 and a 5. So he can't win them all. And he takes the... What was that? Sorry.
Oh, neither can the Night Sky, needing 9s and whiffing that too.
Yeah. And then the other Plainsman hits the Hermit Crab with some Deadfire SRM-6s. So he takes a little bit of damage on that Hermit Crab. I'm a little surprised he didn't decide to collapse that building during the firing phase. But that's pretty much it. The Dervish fires back at the T-Sang and shaves down the armor. Left torso rear for that T-Sang is down to 1 armor remaining. So not quite internal, but definitely opening up the can slowly.
Well, and we get to the physical attack phase here.
Yep, and the first T-Sang targets that building. It's down to 42 construction factor. The Wolverine kicks the T-Sang that he's in the rear of, 11 damage to the left leg. And the other T-Sang hatchets the Wolverine that's directly behind him, needs an 8, but rolls a 6, not connecting with these melee attacks. That would make all the difference for him.
Yeah, so Spider misses as well, needs a, what does that say, need a 6 rolls of 5?
Yeah, needs a 6. So Spider not that good in the fisticuffs phase.
You know who is good in the fisticuffs? The damn Star Slayer.
Goes for the punch and gets the Hermit Crab in the face. Take that. 5 damage to the head. Makes his consciousness check, but that is the first piloting hit on that Hermit Crab. And the Hermit Crab kicks the Star Slayer in rebuttal, which isn't quite as impressive as punching him in the head. But, I mean, you'll take what you can get.
So the building the Night Sky is on though collapses, and the Night Sky gets hit for some falling debris. But it also says that he falls 4 levels.
Yep, because he was on a level 4 building. So that's your tonnage divided by 10 times 5, which is 25 damage for that Night Sky.
And it's not as much as I was expecting, to be honest.
No, but it's still more damage than he would have likely have done shooting at the Night Sky.
True, because it is 25 damage there, including 2 3 armor criticals, which don't damage anything, but he has sandblasted most of that armor off.
Yeah, not to mention the Night Sky is now prone going into the next turn.
And takes another, or takes his first pilot hit, rather.
Yep. The Spider makes his piloting roll for missing a kick. The T-Sang makes his for being kicked, as does the Star Slayer. So the only prone mech right now is that Night Sky of Elroy's. All right, I think that's it for this phase. We're going to go ahead and get into round number 5. And it looks like Luke wins initiative, which is definitely a windfall for him, considering he's down 2 units.
Well, The only other good thing is that Night Sky being prone means he can't jump, and he's got a lot of mechs surrounding the Night Sky, so Elroy is going to have to move that Night Sky pretty late if he wants to keep it unpredictable or safe.
Yeah, or you can just throw it to the wolves and use it as bait and move it first. Either way you want to go about it.
True, because you know that he's got some TSM active mechs that are going to, they've got a hatchet, they're going to want to use it, and I suspect Elroy's probably got some artillery shells landing somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Luke's artillery that he just plotted, he did an auto hit that is right in the middle of the kerfluffle. Unfortunately, that won't be landing for another 2 turns of movement. Okay, so we're finally getting into some movement. The dervish jumped up on a building over here. Looks like he's on level 5. And the Star Slayer jumped into the rear of the Mad Cat. So cutting off his movement options real early here. He either has to move that Mad Cat now or risk being cut off after, 2 more units move.
True. The first world problems of, oh no, my list isn't dead, so I'm going to have to move a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. Luke is down to 4 units, and Alroy still has all 6 of his.
I will say Elroy has definitely been maneuvering very well this game.
Yeah, he's been very opportunistic from what I've seen. He decided to go after that Star Slayer that stood still. He decided to go after the Vindicator that was kind of isolated there and surrounded him. That Vindicator didn't have that high of a movement modifier that turn it went down, and he's just jumping on opportunities.
You know, another thing, that Night Sky is in rubble, which is a +1 to its PSRs.
Also true. So it's going to be even slightly harder for it to stand up next turn. The Mad Cat decided to move into the hex with the Plainsman and turn around. That way, it's not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with it. As it stands now, I don't think he can get to the rear arc because that spider's in the way with the T-Sang.
Bit odd though, because the T-Sang could just jump behind the Mad Cat.
Yeah, but you want to get into melee, so he's going to have to delay moving that T-Sang until Elroy decides to move that spider wherever he plans on moving it.
True. And
Or you
somebody's
can
just
be
run up to the
impatient.
north.
Okay, so he's going to be moving. He's going to be moving the first T-Sang straight into the front arc of the Mad Cat.
Now, make sure you click climb mode.
Oh,
Oh
nope,
wait,
he
no,
went
it's
around
not
the
building.
buildings. No, yeah, he went around them there. So it looks like he's going after big money here. So the Night Sky is still threatened by that T-Sang. So he's going to be forced to try and stand up or be a very easy target for that T-Sang. And if the Night Sky does move away, he'll just turn his focus onto that Timberwolf.
Oh, Night Sky stood up and didn't move where I thought I would expect him to move.
Yeah, no, he decided to stay directly in front of the T-Sang and get 0 modifier. Now the other T-Sang looks like he's going to move right up into the face of that Night Sky as a counter, which I still would have liked to have seen him jump into the rear arc of the Mad Cat once that spider moves away. But he's running out of options. That Plainsman can't move right now since that Night Sky moved up forward. It could either scooch into the hex with the Night Sky.
It
Oh,
happened. He needed a 3, I think it was, to get into the rubble, and he rolled a Snake Eyes.
yeah, you can see he went to pull up the round report right now to look at it. Oh, that's not good. So he's got to try and stand up with that T-Sang, which he does. But that is unfortunate. That's free damage on that T-Sang. And that Plainsman is still trapped. I guess since wait a minute. I thought Luke won initiative this turn. Yep, so there it goes. There goes that spider.
Mhm.
So if he would have moved that Plainsman earlier, which I really don't think he should be moving that Plainsman last. That is not the play, if you ask me.
Or possibly just move it back too, so that you can rear arc that Mad Cat. I don't think you can punch through it, but you have dead fire, so maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he could move back one and then have the T-Sang, or he could have had the T-Sang jump into that same hex with Plainsman.
He's going
If he
for the
moved it
charge.
into the hex.
He's going for the charge,
Oh, which one? Into the spider, you think?
and he's trying to. Or no, he's going.
Oh,
Okay, he's just
okay.
moving into the same hex.
Yep, and there's the movement log. You can see the T-Sang falling there briefly. So yeah, he's moving into the hex with the Star Slayer. So he's been making a lot of those pilot rolls. He only needs 3s and 4s, but eventually the rule of big, or the law of big numbers, is going to say that you're going to fail one of those if you keep rolling them.
And yep, thought we were already in the shooting phase. Yeah, there we are. So they're declaring now.
Yep. So let's fast forward through this a little bit. Timberwolf into T-Sang number 1. Looks like Plainsman or Star Slayer.
Star Slayer, because it had a rear-mounted head laser, which you were calling useless.
There we go. Star Slayer into the night sky. It doesn't seem like he's firing that rear laser currently.
No, if you're shooting, it's probably 13s to hit the spider.
Yeah, that was a pretty far jump. Oh, hang on. Timeout. That was a quick firing phase. Let's go ahead and pull up our log then. Because, yeah. I saw red.
I don't need to choke on my popcorn that quick.
Right. You gotta warn us when you're going to go through the firing phase so quickly. Okay, so there it is. 6 damage on that T-Sang just for falling. Luckily, it doesn't go internal anywhere. So, still not good, though.
So
And
nothing
here,
on artillery, but let's start with this Mad Cat.
okay, ER large laser, first shot of the round, nails the T-Sang in the head for 10 damage, 2 internal structure remaining. Critical hit on the head is rolled, but nothing comes up nil. But he still takes the pilot hit, which is the first one for this particular T-Sang.
Well, and then he crits out the hatchet with the other ER large, and told you the prophecy of the hatchet's going to get destroyed before you can hit with it. So,
Oh man, that is bad. But I think he's got even bigger problems to worry about.
yeah. So I'm watching this, and he takes 5 damage to his right leg with some high explosive ammo, but then another 5, which is off the head.
Yep. So double tap the head in the same shooting phase by the same mech. That Mad Cat takes out the T-Sang. That is quite unfortunate. This is what the 3rd mech that Luke has lost through pretty damn good luck shots from Elroy.
Luke, I'm going to recommend that you change your mechs where you actually install the cockpit where the gyro is, because I mean, you've got to move it to somewhere more heavily armored. That's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I just noticed right now is that the ECM prevents the inherent bonus of the ATMs rolling on the cluster table.
There's
It just showed
there's
it
a
right there.
there's a bonus on the ATMs on the cluster table.
Yeah, I think they all come inherently with Artemis 4. So it's not listed, but they just automatically have that +2 to clusters,
No, I've been playing them wrong.
which is why you might see, 5 missiles hitting on the regular, because that's the average for a 9 with the +2. All
Well,
right.
Dervish comes back, and its MMLs start putting some work in on. I think that's the same T-Sang.
Yeah, because the other one would be number 2.
Yep. So overkill, but sometimes you need to buy insurance.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lucky shot, realistically. That T-Sang should not have been going down this turn with all that fire hitting.
Star Slayer hits a torso, needs a 7, rolls a 7, and goes internal, but doesn't manage to take it out. Needs 9 more structure damage to put that night sky down, and it misses on its medium lasers.
Again, for like the 4th turn in a row. Night Sky comes back with a large pulse laser into T-Sang number 2. This is the one that did not get head capped this turn. So boring into the right torso. Only 8 armor left there.
And Wolverine gets some rear shots on that Star Slayer. Goes internal and takes out 2 heat sinks. But, you know, the Star Slayer has TSM, but we haven't really seen him do anything with it.
No, he's been keeping him back, using him kind of like a sniper with that heavy PPC. So the T-Sang unloads into the Mad Cat, which is right in front of him. Needs 8s across the board. And, oh man, the dice are just not on his side this game. Cannot hit a single 8 on all 5 of those rolls. 6, 7, 7, 7, 2. That hurts to see.
Did you also just hear the sound of a keyboard getting snapped in half?
Sure as hell sounded like it from here. I know mine would be. Going down further, the Spider 8X unloading those medium pulse lasers into the Star Slayer goes internal on the right rear and on the left rear, but blows off the limb on the left torso, which means that Star Slayer is more than likely in force withdrawal.
He is, but luckily we use force withdrawal for points in NFL, not actual movement. And that was the medium laser torso, which is full of a bunch of useless medium lasers, and not the precious heavy PPC torso.
True, he can still zombie around a bit and fire off that heavy PPC. Although, actually, no, it's not going to make a difference because those extra heat he's generating aren't going to matter.
And he's a TSM mech. Oh no, I'm too hot.
Right. But the other T-Sang for Luke completely whiffs as well, needing 8s across the board this time. Again, oh, I take that back. He hits with a small laser
Oh,
and does
good.
3 damage to the Mad Cat. 2 alpha strikes pretty much from those T-Sangs, and 1 small laser is the only thing that hits. The dice are not on your side today, Luke. And the Plainsman also fires into that spider and misses. Needs 10s, which is a high number, so you're not expecting that to hit. But he does hit with one of them, actually, now that I can actually read properly, which is not something we normally do here. But he hits the right arm twice, the right torso, not going internal anywhere.
Yeah, only 3 of the missiles hit.
Yeah, so subpar roll, or average roll, whatever you want to call it.
Well, and the Star Slayer manages to stay standing, though, so at least he didn't fall and take more.
Yeah, I mean, count your blessings at this point. Getting into the physical attack phase, the Night Sky kicks the left leg of T-Sang number 2. 20 damage to the right leg. Oof, that hurts. Only 8 armor remaining there. One more turn of kicks, and that leg could go bye-bye.
Well, and Spider takes a little bonk on the Plainsman, but misses. And T-Sang number 2 is able to use its mighty TSM to kick the Night Sky, but doesn't completely blow the leg off. 3 damage remaining.
Oh, he really needs those TSM kicks and hatchets to come through, but they're just not getting rid of legs and connecting with the hatchets when he needs them to. The dice have forsaken him this match, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the Night Sky and the Spider both make their rolls with plenty of clearance.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it looks like the T-Sang does not. He fails his second piloting roll, needing a 4, rolling a 3, and bonking himself on the head for the second time. Needs a 4 to roll to avoid damage.
This is where we mentioned that you can buy a pound of D6 dice on Amazon from Chessex for about $20. So,
Yeah.
same
Might wanna
experience on the table. Go get you some.
Yeah, might want to sacrifice them to the dice gods there. All right, let's get caught up into this match. So now they're plotting artillery fire again, and this is the aftermath. The T-Sang number 2 is prone directly in front of the Night Sky and the Mad Cat. He's got a Plainsman left and his Star Slayer left, and I think that's it. And Elroy has not lost any mechs, nor does he have anything in force withdrawal, if I'm not mistaken. And the Star Slayer is in force withdrawal, but the Plainsman is still fully operational.
Yeah, that night sky only has damage to one torso. It's close.
Yeah, at this point, the writing is on the wall. Unless that T Sang goes, full Goku mode and just starts kicking everybody to death, uh, you need to recover as many points as you can at this point. Just go for kills on whatever you can, because you don't want to end up with a negative score at the end of the match for your tournament standings. You're gonna want to kill something, or at least get something into force withdrawal. Because whatever you get for combat score, as long as it's positive, I do believe it will be doubled. So right now you're in a big negative hole.
Yep. So definitely points is what you're going after. I mean, points is what you're going after in the first place, of course, but this is when you really start calculating this is what I need to do in order to, not be negative, as you mentioned.
Yeah, now you might start taking suboptimal shots on damaged targets.
For
Uh,
sure. Like that night sky is priority number one because at least you should be able to poke its, 2 or 3 damage to its torso and it's enforced withdrawal and you've got points on the board.
yeah, exactly. I don't think any of the other mechs on Alroy's side have been really damaged significantly. The spider's been poked at a bit. The Mad Cat's been poked at with a small laser. The Dervish looks like it's completely perfectly fine. The Wolverine looks like it's barely been scratched. And I think maybe the Hermit Crab took a little bit of damage, but it's off hiding right now. You don't even know where it is.
And sometimes games just go that way. The other month at a local tournament, I had my entire force tabled, and all I had to show for it was a pair of elementals and force withdrawal. Games like this happen.
Oh yeah, they happen to everybody. I mean, sometimes the dice just do not go your way, and they choose to side with your opponent. Uh, getting the headshots and destroying mechs in one turn,
Oh,
finding the ammo bin on a plainsman and killing it outright instantly.
he,
And then
he was looking at a charge on the dervish.
now that I don't think I like, because that dervish is still perfectly fine, but it's one of the only mechs that has moved so far, so it's his only one of his only legal targets. He's already moved the Star Slayer. I don't think he's moved the T Sang. If you're gonna be using the Plainsman to charge, I think you need to move that T Sang first, and then look at what your options are.
So one thing that's interesting is he was
Oh,
pre-plotting his charge. I didn't know you could do that. I thought you just had to click charge and then click the enemy. So I learned something watching this.
yeah, you can do your little whip around and get as many hexes as you possibly can for your charge.
That changes a lot of how I'm going to start using charge now. So
Yeah.
level up.
Oh yeah, everybody always learns something new. Unfortunately, he skidded with that Plainsman, so I don't think that charge will be as damaging as he was hoping it would be.
Yeah, but there's always a chance that it'll do an increased PSR and that'll cause shenanigans.
Yep, couldn't hurt. So now he's got to move the T Sang as his last move, but oh, there it is. He moves the T Sang into the same hex as the Plainsman. It looks like he's going to go all in on that Dervish. Oh, well, the Night Sky decided to move one hex up into the T Sang's melee range, which I do not agree with, but so be it.
Uh, you know what? Star Slayer has active TSM and probably a pretty crap roll of hitting because of all that heat from losing a torso. Let's see it try to kick something.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Or you could play defensively and just jump it back. Well, let's go ahead and get in the combat log for this round. Because it looks like it's going to be pretty brutal.
Did the artillery do anything?
Hex. Oh, yeah, actually, the one of Luke's shots nails the Wolverine for 10 damage. So there we go. Takes 5, and he hits his own Star Slayer for 10 damage. Ooh, takes another 10 right there. Wait a minute. It
A
says,
little more than 10.
oh,
That's 20, or no, it's 10 damage it transfers.
oh, okay. All right. All right. I was like, that's a whole lot of 10 damage right there.
Mhm.
So the same shot nailing his unit and one of Alroy's units. So he will get the tiebreaker points for that shot. So here we go into the actual weapons firing phase. The
Oh,
T-Sang of Luke hits with the large laser on the Dervish, but whiffs the two ER mediums.
and the Mad Cat takes out an engine on the T-Sang with a large laser and puts some work in with the ATMs. And then what's this next one? Takes out a foot as well. Through armor crit on the left leg. That's going to be a difficult one.
Oh yeah, that T-Sang is more than likely going to fall. He's got a hip crit as well.
That's from the Night Sky.
Oh yeah, it was. So yeah, the Night Sky lighting up the T-Sang with its large pulse, medium pulse, ER medium, and small pulse.
So we're at
He's
40 plus damage already, on top of a hip hit, on top of a foot hit, on top of, yeah.
yeah, that's not good. Wolverine for Elroy unloads into the Star Slayer. Doesn't go internal anywhere, but it hits with all of its weapons, doing a significant amount of damage.
Oh, the
And
Star Slayer. Hey, look at that heavy PPC.
nails the Mad Cat 15 to the left arm, unfortunately. You wanted that to go to the center torso, but it is what it is. At least you hit with it consistently.
And
Uh,
Dervish to Plainsman, miss, but it does get a ER medium, which immobilizes the vehicle.
ooh, no. Does that mean that Plainsman
Charge.
can't finish that charge?
You are correct. The charge cannot happen.
Oh, that super sucks. Man. Well, so much for that. So that Plainsman is literally a sitting duck for this next melee phase. And the Spider unloads into the Plainsman, only hits with one of those medium pulse lasers. The Hermit Crab fires into the Star Slayer, only hits with one of those ER mediums. 5 damage to the center torso means there's no armor remaining in that Star Slayer CT.
Well, at least the Star Slayer didn't fall when it did his PSR check here.
Yeah, to be fair, that T-Sang took 60 plus damage and had a hip actuator hit, needed a 9, and he rolls a 2. So
Mm.
no, there was no saving him there. The dice said no. Uh,
We're going to get a poster that says that.
yeah, well, we're gonna need it with the way some of these people roll. Man, they're studying me too much.
Oh,
Uh,
physical attack phase. Let's see what happens here.
yeah, Star Slayer kicks the Wolverine. I mean, he takes the damage, but doesn't go internal. Nothing spectacular. Night Sky kicks the T-Sang, destroys the head. Oh man, 20 damage to the head. That is the second mech destroyed by headshot in this game.
Mm.
That is unfortunate. And Macy Waddingham is already dead, so no damage is dealt.
We're,
Ooh.
Elroy, if we ever get to play in person, we're going to need to get you some of those like shrunken heads to stick on a belt or something, because obviously you're scalping.
Yep, and he's got 2 so far, just from this game alone. Uh, moving along, the Wolverine kicks the Star Slayer to the right leg. Nothing spectacular. Dervish kicks the Plainsman. 11 damage to the turret. Only 1 armor remaining there. But that Plainsman is pretty much out of commission without having any TMM going forward.
Well, and the Wolverine and Star Slayer make the rolls with flying colors. Well, the Wolverine barely makes it, needs 4 rolls of 4, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but the Star Slayer makes it and is still standing. But the Star Slayer is in force withdrawal already.
So, one thing to remember is with the NFL variation, the BV is important, including weapons destroyed, etc. So, once it dips at 20% or below, the game automatically ends. That way, you don't have like 2 crippled mechs just kind of laughing at each other from the opposite side of the board. But it looks like there's still 28% of the initial force from Luke is alive or on the field, so the game hasn't ended yet, but this probably is the last turn.
More than likely, yeah. That Star Slayer didn't hear no bell, at least not this round.
Nope, it can still go out with a stack pole and do all sorts of craziness.
Yeah, that would be entertaining. That would be a nice little cherry on top.
Or the artillery landing right there and nuking everybody.
Yup, going out in a blaze of glory. Okay, so there we go. That's the end of the firing phase. Now here's the melee phase. There should be a squish. Oh, wait, no, that's the plainsman. All right, my bad. Hang on, let's scooch back a bit. I got ahead of myself there. I was looking for the squish from the T-Sang, but the plainsman was covering it up with its big old immobile marker. All right. So I apologize for that. Getting into the movement phase, the Star Slayer looks like he's going to scooch up and turn his back away from everybody and go down with that heavy PPC facing down that Mad Cat who just walked right up close to him. Now, that Mad Cat will get hit by an auto hit for 10 damage because he's adjacent to it. Because that will be landing this turn.
Now,
But
when you get hit by artillery, does it do something like you have to roll a d6 to see if it's front or back arc?
I think it's directional, so that might automatically be back arc because it's from where the actual shell is landing is in his rear
Gotcha.
arc. I could be mistaken, but I think that's how it works.
So here's the good news. That immobile plainsman has a internal combustion engine, so the turret is not locked.
Yeah, that's very true. So he can still fire those SRMs into that rear arc of the Mad Cat,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Although,
highly suggest he does.
I highly suggest he doesn't, because that night sky is right there and didn't really move.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call too. You could go for the lucky shot and put that Night Sky in force withdrawal.
Yeah, and personally, I would say the safer bet is to get 10 points on the night sky rather than trying to go from 0 to 10 points on a fresh Mad Cat's butt armor.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That is the safer play as far as points are concerned. All right, so the spiders in the rear arc of the Star Slayer, the Wolverines behind it, sort of, but in the side arc of the Star Slayer. The Dervish and the Mad Cat are staring it down, and the Night Sky is staying behind cover so that the Plainsman can shoot at it with its turret still. Uh,
The obvious move is heavy PPC to the head of the Mad Cat. Done.
yeah, good call. I agree. It's a solid strategy. Just roll 12s, and the game is easy. Let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log. Maybe the artillery shell will hit him in the head and be lucky for him. Whoa, hang on. What's going on here? There it is. All right.
Rear
So,
table, yeah.
yeah, it does hit the rear table, but it only does 10 damage to the right arm because he doubled up on the same location. Unfortunate. Even when he hits with something, it's like, meh. The dice just were not on your side, Luke. I don't know what else to say.
Get better virtual dice.
Yeah.
Oh, let's take a look. The Star Slayer, I see this. Heavy PPC needs an 8, rolls an 11. See, heavy PPCs are just such an awesome and amazing weapon. You should always take one.
Now, is there a penalty to hit with the heavy PPC like there is for heavy lasers?
No, it's just more awesome. It's 15 heat and 15 damage.
No, okay. I guess that's a fair trade. It's better than a ER PPC by a long shot.
Mm, So the trick with those is if you can't fire it consistently, is to the weapon cycle, but it gives you a head clipper instead of just a head scraper.
Yeah, and you definitely want the head clipper. Unfortunately, he did not clip the head, but he did get a hit sink and an upper arm actuator. So at least he got something.
Yeah, and Mad Cat here. There's a lot going on here. It hits with everything except one of the ATMs. I see CT through armor criticals getting cored. Right. Well, hold on. Look at this. The left torso takes a through armor critical on the ER large laser. The other ER large laser does a right torso through armor critical. He's rolling a lot of 12s there. Elro, you're taking our advice. Just roll 12s.
Yeah, man, game looked easy. He's
Or
rolled so many 12s.
or no, those aren't 12s. I'm sorry, that's Alpha Strike. Those are Snake Eyes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Damn. It's better
Yeah.
he rolls those on location instead of to hit.
And he crits out the heavy PPC, so there's no more reason for that Star Slayer to exist.
And even more less of a reason because he actually burrows into the center torso and destroys the Star Slayer outright.
No stack pull though.
Yep, missed it by one. So no going out in a blaze of glory, unfortunately. And it looks like the Plainsman gets shot at by the Night Sky. Major damage, vehicle immobile, which we already knew. And now the engine is destroyed. So now the turret's locked, which means it's not going anywhere. Unfortunately, I don't think it really matters, even if the Plainsman somehow miraculously just survives this turn, because that's going to be under 20% now that Night Sky is gone. I'm sorry, Star Slayer is gone for Luke.
Well, it said it destroyed it, so yeah, it is totally dead.
Yep, there it is. And that's the end of the match right there. It says, yep, Team 1 has achieved BV destroyed victory conditions with 85%.
So one thing to note is he did have the Plainsman shoot the Night Sky, so that was the right move. But unfortunately, I don't think he did enough damage. It's a little further down there.
Oh,
There it is.
past it. There we go.
So
Yeah, he
he,
hit the leg, the arm, the leg, left torso, right leg, right arm, and right torso. He had 6 internal structure remaining on that right torso. So,
but he's in on the left torso and the right torso, so I'm fairly certain he's in force withdrawal at least.
yeah, and he did destroy the leg, which means it should have fallen at the end of the turn and taken slightly more damage somewhere. Yeah, 5
Yeah.
more damage to the left torso, which means he's now
Oh,
exposed on both torsos.
nope, but that doesn't matter. His left torso is no armor remaining, but he hasn't taken
Oh,
any
that's
internals.
right. So it's not counting as exposed.
Yeah. Well, no, it's exposed, yeah, but he hasn't taken structure damage. So I'm
Ugh.
pretty sure that Night Sky is not in force withdrawal then, even though he's catastrophically crippled, it feels like.
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, we'd have to double check the game state, but we don't have that information on us, unfortunately. But we can watch this play out a little bit and see where the ending screen comes up for them. There it is. So that's gonna do it for this match. Yeah, that was very brutal. Unfortunate for Luke, but he played it out like a trooper.
You know
Um,
what? Not only that, but that would be a difficult one to turn in without commentary to, show off. So props to you, Luke, for not being afraid to turn in a loss. And
yeah,
good job, Elroy, for showing off some really great maneuvering.
yeah, Mr. Head Capper himself over here. It's not even like he one shot the head with Gauss rifles. He double tapped each head, I think. No, one was a kick to the face. So, well, never mind.
Well, that's just
But,
style points.
yeah, got to give him where credit's due. That was well played by Elroy. Granted, we were watching that match from Luke's perspective, so a lot of our commentary was based on what Luke was doing because we couldn't really see what Elroy was doing. But we mentioned it earlier, and he did play very opportunistic and collapsed on quite a few mechs that had very low movement modifiers and punished Luke for it.
And we also do have a little bit of underdog syndrome. So when we see one player's behind, it's hard not to start rooting for them even harder.
Oh yeah, as soon as a player loses a mech, they get my vote for rooting for them. And then until the other player loses 2 mechs, then my vote swings back the other way. I'm a very fickle fan.
So the way we earn your praise is to just start self-destructing. Got it.
Yeah, if you automatically eject 1 mech, you got my vote for the rest of the match because now you're playing with 1 mech tied behind your back. But with that being said, I think that was a pretty good match overall. He, I'd say Luke tried to play to his list strengths, and it just didn't pan out. I don't think he made any tactical errors or strategic errors. There were definitely some tactical errors, like leaving that Star Stayer standing still when he absolutely should not have. But strategy wise, getting up close with those T Sangs and bringing those hatchets to bear, I think he executed, but the dice just didn't agree with his strategy.
Yeah, I don't know if the standing still on the Star Slayer was quite as much of an error because it did give him a good solid hit, which maybe if other stuff had hit, he could have knocked over some things. But I agree with you. Strategy wise, Luke was playing to his strengths. He had a very heavily armored TSM mechs, and he was using them very aggressively. It's just unfortunate that he couldn't really land anything solid because he's also going after somebody with a very mobile force, and his numbers are just too high.
Yeah, yeah, he was shooting at eights and nines and tens consistently across the board. The jumpy mechs were way too quick. The Mad Cat was positioned well, so he couldn't get clean shots on it most of the time, unless he overcommitted like he did. Uh, but yeah, it was just well played by Alroy and well played by Luke. It's just the dice and the execution favored Alroy this time around.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. It's not often we say the dice just completely screwed you because there's a lot of other things that could happen, but it, the dice were very heavily weighted against you.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't want to detract any more from Alroy's victory. I think he earned it. He played
It
well.
was very, very well earned. Like I said, the positioning was spot on. He was using his mech's strengths. Didn't really see anything with the artillery, but even
Yeah, I was going to comment on that.
yeah, but even just making use of that Mad Cat, consistently getting it up and being able to take good, clean shots was very well done.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of Mad Cats in general. I think they're too expensive for what they offer, but he made me a little bit of a believer with this E variant. It put in significantly more work than I was expecting it to at first glance looking at this list.
Only one I'm real disappointed with is we had a lot of melee weapons, and I think I only saw like one hit.
Yeah, there were melee weapons on both sides, and only like one actual hatchet hit went through, and it didn't even hit anything. It hit like a leg or something. Nothing
Yeah.
significant. Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. You have any other closing words you want to throw around for this particular match, Pirate?
Hermit Crab and Plainsmen were probably underplayed. I don't really see those units do much of anything. But MVP, I would say, is probably on Luke's side. I kind of want to say it's that Star Slayer just for the amount of damage it kept pushing out, and the Mad Cat stands out on Elroy's side, but so does that Night Sky. It got a lot of good positioning, but I think maybe that Mad Cat.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you with both of those MVP nominations. The Mad Cat put in a ton of damage for Alroy, and like you said, the Star Slayer did the same for Luke. And I also agree that the Plainsmen, I think, were highly underutilized. He could have tried to trap that Mad Cat with him more often, or limited some of his other mech's movement. I mean, the only mech on Alroy's side that could not jump was that Mad Cat. So he should have been putting a Plainsman directly in front of it almost every turn to limit its options.
The Dervish did a lot better than I was expecting, so it made me reconsider how much I want to crap talk that piece of junk. But the the Wolverine surprised me for as good of Wolverine as we thought that was. It did okay damage, but it really didn't do much either.
Yeah, no, he was jumping at every turn, so it had the same problem that the T-Segs did, where it had high numbers to hit. So, I mean, it's a good bruiser. It's a good 55 tonner, but if you're going to be chasing mechs and you have to jump every turn to chase those mechs, your target numbers aren't going to be very good. And in a city fight, more than likely you're going to be jumping to prevent giving yourself those piloting skill checks.
Well, that was definitely enjoyable to watch. So thank you for sending that. And not the way I would have played it, but that's what makes it more interesting. So, and I don't say that as a criticism. It definitely made me rethink a couple of options that I can use in future.
Yeah, I have yet to really try using a TSM list, and seeing other people go about it is giving me ideas. I'm gonna have to try my hand at it one of these days. But that was definitely a good match to watch, and thank you for submitting that to us, Luke. It's not easy to submit a devastating loss like this to get analyzed and show a bunch of people how the match went down.
So you're making a TSM list. Let me Sarna anti-TSM SRM ammo.
Yeah, it's called Infernos.
Oh, there's actually an anti-TSM ammo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot what it's called, but it's in one of those books where Hans Stavia specifically loses the TSM formula, gives it to the Capellans, and he hits them with some acid gas ammo or something that makes their TSM lock up.
Now I gotta go find a rear firing SRM just so I can give you acid gas.
Ooh, I think acid
Anyway,
gas would affect anybody.
but no, that was great. I don't have much else to say about it other than just praising players for getting games in and enjoying watching the community grow.
Yeah, thanks for sending it in again. I appreciate it. Thank you, Alroy and Luke, for letting us cast it. And thank you, everybody in the MRC, for contributing and playing games and playing in all the tournaments. Solaris 7 is about not quite halfway through. We're only a little bit halfway into the month of June. So there's a lot more matches to be played. Speaking of which, Pirate, you and I still need to play our match for Solaris 7, and that's my last one, I think, of the tournament.
Uh, Listen, just because we can get all of our games in within the first 72 hours of the month doesn't mean we have to. Maybe I want to sip on it and savor it like a fine wine before it turns into vinegar on the 30th.
That's true. We can always do it next week, which will probably say the same thing next week as well.
Probably.
All right. Well, unless you have anything else, I think that's just about going to do it for us for tonight, Pirate.
And now let's wrap it up, and I look forward to seeing more.
All right. So you heard it here first, folks. Join the MRC to get in on the action. We've got plenty more tournaments coming up the pipeline. Actually, speaking of which, you have Operation Klondike, which we announced earlier this month, coming up for next month. But we'll probably do another video separately talking about that specifically to build a little bit of hype for that event.
Oh, excited about that. Early Succession Wars, all 20 clans preparing to go retake the Pentagon worlds. So
Oh yeah,
we'll have a lot of fun with that.
I've already got my list made up. 3 light wrecks, baby, for all the honor ever.
Yeah,
Uh,
Night Chanter Love, along with several other mechs that no one's even heard of. So it's going to
oh
be
yeah, Spirit Walker, baby, the Omni Black Knight. But yeah, that's for later. We'll go ahead and call it here, and see you guys next time. Say goodnight to everybody, Pirate.
You don't get to tell me what to do, but adios, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.